Chapter 736. Mo City. This was a city located at the border of the Hundred Kingdoms continent. Ink City could be considered as a medium-sized city in the Hundred Nations region. Its streets were usually quite bustling, and the number of people coming and going every day was quite high. Roar! Screech! Suddenly, two loud sounds of fierce beasts broke the calm atmosphere in the City Lord Mansion of Mo City. What's going on? Everyone in the City Lord Mansion's expression changed as they looked at the teleportation platform in the backyard. Could it be that the Lord from Mount Cunlea has arrived? After being shocked, everyone in the City Lord Mansion couldn't help but feel pleasantly surprised. Every time the Lord from Mount Cunlea came here, he would give the City Lord Mansion a generous reward to reward them for managing and maintaining the teleportation platform here. In the next moment, a silver beam of light shot up to the sky. A strong and fierce aura swept out like a gale. A red-winged black shadow with a wingspan of nearly 1,000 meters and a stony evil dragon covered in rock armor with bright scales appeared between heaven and earth. The powerful aura of the demonic beasts made it hard for the people in the City Lord Mansion to breathe. There were a few people standing on the backs of these two gigantic beasts. They were none other than Chu Hen, Dan Zhen, Haozi, Fu Qin, and the others. After everything was prepared yesterday, Chu Hen returned to the Hundred Kingdoms continent. Originally, he only planned to bring Haozi, Qi Ting, and Lu Qi with him. However, Hua Xue and the others insisted on coming with him, and even called Dan Zhen along. Dan Zhen didn't refuse. She had never been to the Hundred Kingdoms continent before and wanted to take this opportunity to stroll around. Soon, a series of hurried footsteps came from afar. More than a dozen people hurried to the teleportation platform in the backyard. The leader was an old man in his 50s. Seeing the situation, the old man bowed deeply without saying a word. I didn't know that the lords from Mount Cunlea had arrived. Please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier. The others behind him also bowed respectfully. Dan Zhen raised her eyebrows and said indifferently, "You're the Mo City Lord?" "My lords, this old man is Mo Ping, and I am the manager of this place. May I know why you have come here today?" "We came to the Hundred Nations state for some business. You don't need to ask too much." "Yes, my lord." "Here are 5 heavenly explosive blood pills and 10 million high-grade primordial crystal stones. Take it." Shanzhen waved her hand and a ball of gentle light swept towards the old man below. The ball of light contained a simple and unadorned storage ring. The old man's body involuntarily trembled as he received the storage ring with trembling hands. Then, he knelt on both knees and expressed his gratitude. "Thank you for your reward, my lord." The other people in the City Lord Manor also knelt on the ground and thanked him profusely. "Thank you for your reward, my lord." When Chu Hen saw this scene, a faint ripple appeared in his eyes. 5 heavenly explosive blood pills and 10 million high-grade primordial crystal stones could be considered as a great reward for a small city like Mo City. Every time Mount Cunlea gave them a small favor, it was enough for the people in the City Lord Manor to do their best to maintain and manage the transporting formation. "My lords, if you're not in a hurry, please rest here for a few days so that I can be your host." "There's no need for that. We're in a hurry." Shanzhen rejected without hesitation. As the strongest person in the Flying Celestial Palace, he almost never interacted with the people here. If it was not for Chu Hen, he would never have come here. Roar! Subsequently, the scarlet-winged black eagle and the Shi Yen evil dragon let out another loud roar before they flew away under the respectful gazes of the people in the City Lord Manor. In just a blink of an eye, they disappeared into the horizon. Saint Star Empire. With the passage of time, the Saint Star Empire of the past no longer existed. It was replaced by the new overlord formed by the Academy's Alliance, the Inscription Masters Guild, and the Clan of Generals. However, due to habit, people still liked to call this area the Saint Star Empire. However, it no longer mattered. In the eyes of the major forces in the Hundred Nations Prefecture, the Alliance of Generals had become an overlord. Especially after it formed an alliance with the Thousand Crane sect, the Alliance of Generals had grown stronger by the day. Under Alliance leader Long Qingyang's plan, the Alliance had occupied the ruins of the Seven Souls Kingdom, which had once been the overlord of the 100 Kingdoms. They had used this fertile land to form an invincible demon beast army. After the Misty Wind Dynasty and the Colossal Rock Dynasty formed an alliance, the Flame Shadow Dynasty, the Heaven Net Dynasty, and the Sword Dynasty were also considering joining the Alliance of Generals. If nothing unexpected happened, it would not take long for the Alliance of Generals to rule over half of the forces in the prefecture. The imperial capital, the headquarters of the Alliance of Generals. The former imperial palace of the Saint Star Dynasty was no longer the same. Almost everything inside and out had been refurbished. All the major buildings had been remodeled, and they were even more magnificent and imposing than before. The guards on top of the city gate tower were awe-inspiring, their appearances extraordinary as they guarded this dignified place. It was a spacious and bright meeting hall. A long table that was more than 10 meters long was placed at the center. Many of the higher-ups of the Alliance of Generals were gathered together and discussing. The president of the Academy Alliance, Principal Jiang, sat at the head of the table. Next was the president of the Inscription Master Guild, Qiao Yong, and a beautiful young lady. She was the eldest miss of the Su family, Su Yurong. The current Su Yurong was even more elegant and graceful than when she was in the Hidden Wind region. After Long Qingyang left, he handed over all the management of the clan of generals to Su Yurong. In other words, Su Yurong's position in the Alliance of Generals was not inferior to Principal Jiang and Qiao Yong. President Jiang, the Heavenly Beast Legion has tripled in size compared to last year. Commander Dong Guohong plans to introduce a new type of demon beast, the crocodile beast. This demon beast isn't big, but its combat strength is very strong. If any students are interested in this beast pet, they can adopt a cub from the Heavenly Beast Legion, Su Yurong said clearly. Principal Jiang nodded. All right, I understand. After the Heavenly Beast sect in the Hidden Wind region joined the Alliance of Generals, it changed its name to the Heavenly Beast Legion, and Sect Master Dong Guohong became the commander. Sword Forge City, which specialized in equipment refinement, merged into the Inscription Master Guild. The Academy Alliance was responsible for nurturing all kinds of talents from a young age, while the Inscription Master Guild provided pills, equipment refinement, and all kinds of talisman formations. The clan of generals controlled the military and trained all kinds of special forces. The three departments were inseparable and closely linked. Besides that, the Academy Alliance would send a batch of top talents to the Thousand Crane sect every year to learn from their masters, so that they could go further on the path of the martial Tao. President Qiao Yong, do you have anything to add? Su Yurong looked at Qiao Yong, who sat across from her. Qiao Yong frowned slightly and shook his head. Then he said with slight helplessness, I want to start researching and forging saint artifacts. Oh? Everyone in the conference hall was flabbergasted when they heard this. Isn't that a good thing? Why is President Qiao Yong frowning? The one who asked the question was Qi Wanli, an old subordinate of General Long Bo. He later followed Long Qingyang to establish the clan of generals and was now one of the higher-ups of the Alliance of Generals. Qiao Yong shook his head. Forging saint artifacts is a problem in terms of materials. Everyone immediately fell silent. Indeed, the rare materials needed to forge saint artifacts were not something that spirit artifacts could compare to. Even though the Inscription Master Guild was the wealthiest place in the Sacred Star Dynasty, the materials needed to forge saint artifacts were extremely rare in the 100 Nations prefecture. It could be said that one might not be able to buy them even if they had the money. Buy them from other prefectures. Another higher-up said, That'll be too expensive. Su Yurong shook her head and said, The materials needed to forge saint artifacts are extremely expensive. If we buy them from other prefectures, they will definitely raise the price. Especially since this is our first time forging Saint artifacts, we are extremely inexperienced. The first batch of experiments will require at least 100,000 tons of rare metals. 100,000 tons will require at least 2 billion high-grade primal crystals. Su Yurong's Su clan was a family of equipment refinement. She was very clear about the budget in this area. 2 billion high-grade primal crystals? Hearing this, everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. With the General League's ability to accumulate wealth, after deducting the expenses of various places, it would be good if they could have 5 to 600 million high-grade primal crystals a year. From today onwards, they would have to wait at least 3 to 4 years to be able to collect 2 billion high-grade primal crystals. Moreover, for the first time forging Saint artifacts, 100,000 tons of rare metals might not be 100% success rate. Even if they succeeded, they would still need to invest more in the future to be able to forge Saint artifact. With a rough calculation, it was indeed a little difficult for the General League at the moment. Forget it, just pretend I didn't say anything about this. President Xiao Yong shook his head helplessly. Currently, President Xiao Yong's attainments in equipment refinement had reached a bottleneck. Forging spirit artifacts was no longer too challenging for him. However, the problem in front of him made him sigh inwardly. Roar. Screech. Suddenly, at this moment, 2 earth-shattering roars of beasts came from outside. In an instant, the entire General League headquarters shook faintly. Not good. Is there an enemy invasion? Chapter 737. Roar. The ferocious beast's roar in the sky above the capital caused the entire ground of the General Alliance's headquarters to shake. Everyone's first reaction was that there was an enemy invasion. Principal Jiang, Su Yorong, Qiao Yong, Qi Wanli, and the others who were discussing various matters in the conference hall immediately rushed out. A surging ferocious aura swept across the area. The first thing that caught everyone's eyes were 2 behemoths with monstrous auras. It's the Beast King. Quick, activate the defensive formation. At this moment, a familiar voice was heard. Everyone, don't panic, it's me. This is? The General Alliance members were stunned. Principal Jiang, Qiao Yong, Su Yorong, and the others raised their eyebrows, their eyes filled with disbelief. It's Chu Hen, Chu Hen? In an instant, everyone in the General Alliance's hearts lit up. To countless people in the Sacred Star Dynasty, the name Chu Hen was like the name of an emperor. It was extremely intimidating. Subsequently, 8 or 9 young figures with extraordinary bearings flashed down from the backs of the 2 huge beasts. When they saw the person in the lead, all of their faces surged with joy. It really is the Alliance leader. Alliance leader Chu Hen is back. Ha ha! The atmosphere changed in an instant, from solemn and chaotic to noisy and lively. In the hearts of the General Alliance members, there were 2 Alliance leaders. One was Long Qingyang, and the other was Chu Hen. Long Qingyang was the leader on the surface, while Chu Hen was the main pillar. Buzz, Chu Hen and the rest landed on the ground steadily. Other than Danjun, everyone else was a familiar face. Everyone went up to greet him. Are you trying to scare us to death? Why did you cause such a huge commotion the moment you arrived? Su Yorong went up and patted his shoulder lightly. Where's my big brother? Chu Hen asked as he did not see Long Qingyang in the crowd. Qingyang left the General Alliance half a year ago. He said he was going to travel and cultivate. Chu Hen was not surprised by this answer. After all, he had a long talk with Long Qingyang a few days before he had left for the victorious East State. Long Qingyang was ambitious, and had said that he would travel for a few years once the situation in the General Alliance had stabilized. Qingyang? Chu Hen's handsome eyebrows twitched, and he looked at Su Yurong with a slightly playful smile. He said, "When my big brother returns, will I have to call you sister-in-law?" Su Yorong blushed and scolded, "Do as you see fit." Chu Hen couldn't help but let out a hearty laugh. The other members of the General League smiled as well. Anyone with eyes could tell the relationship between Long Qingyang and Su Yorong. And Su Yorong's management ability was unanimously praised and recognized by the higher-ups. She and Long Qingyang were indeed a good match. Before Long Qingyang left, he had indeed promised Su Yorong that he would marry her once he returned from his travels. Let me introduce everyone. This is Danjun, the number one of the younger generation in Mount Kunlia's Flying Immortal Hall, Chu Hen introduced. Danjun was a little speechless. This guy really knew how to flatter himself. I am Danjun. Greetings, everyone. Everyone hurriedly cupped their fists in return. Now, the members of the General League had a better understanding of Mount Kunliu in the victorious East State. They knew that with Mount Kunlia's power, it would be a piece of cake to destroy the entire 100-nation state. Moreover, the aura that Danjun exuded was truly awe-inspiring. Of course, the most amazing person was still Chu Hen. In just a short year, Chu Hen had already made everyone feel that he was unfathomable. This friend, you used to be a rat in the Bright Moon Academy? Zhou Hao? At this moment, a young man walked up to Chu Hen and the others in disbelief, and looked at Haozi. Haozi smiled and nodded. What? Li Kai, don't you remember me? Upon hearing his name, the young man's eyes widened. Are you really little Haozi? Oh my God! Where have you been all these years? I thought you went missing. This young man called Li Kai used to be a student of the Bright Moon Academy. Now that he had entered the General League, he found a job here. Upon hearing Li Kai's exclamation, a few people from the Bright Moon Academy and Tensei Prefecture immediately remembered Haozi. I remember now. You are little Haozi who used to hang out with Mufeng. Yes. You seem to have transferred to our Tensei Prefecture from the Bright Moon Academy. In an instant, even Bright Moon Academy's Principal Wei and Tensei Prefecture's Principal Jiang could not help but look at this man with a pair of small eyes. It would have been fine if they did not look, but when they did, they were shocked. The aura that Haozi exuded had already reached the profound world realm, far surpassing anyone on their side. He was actually in the profound world realm. Other than Chu Hen, this tiny sacred star empire had actually produced 2 experts at the Earth Profound Realm in just a few short years. Principal Wei immediately lost his composure. Why didn't the Bright Moon Academy discover a genius like Haozi in the past? Principal Jiang, on the other hand, was secretly delighted. His own Tensei Prefecture produced 2 profound world realm experts in a row. Even though it had little to do with him, it was still a great honor to say it out loud. After a simple introduction, Chu Hen looked at everyone in surprise and said, What day is it today? Why are all the higher-ups of the General League gathered here? Principal Jiang smiled and said, Speaking of which, it's quite a coincidence. We are currently summarizing various preparations and budgets for the second half of the year. Is that so? Let's hear it. As Chu Hen spoke, he followed everyone into the inner part of the conference hall. Even though he did not like to manage these trivial matters, he was still one of the Alliance Masters after all. It was still necessary for him to ask about the current situation. Everyone followed behind him and entered the conference hall one after another. Principal Jiang, Su Yorong, Qiao Yong, and the others also explained the situation of the General League in detail and the preparation plan for the second half of the year. When it came to researching and forging the sacred weapon, Qiao Yong's expression could not help but become a little awkward and his mood became a lot lower. Why did I say that President Qiao seemed to have a lot on his mind? So it's because of this? Chu Hen raised his eyebrows slightly and smiled with interest. Hua Shui, Qi Ting, Haozi, and the others also stood behind Chu Hen tacitly. Each of their eyes revealed a faint sense of relaxation. Qiao Yong shook his head slightly helplessly. I'm just mentioning it. I don't intend to research and experiment. Why? I think it's great that you guys have this idea. Is it about the materials for forging the sacred weapon? This is simple. Boom. Just as he finished speaking, Chu Hen waved his sleeves. A dense white light flashed in front of everyone's eyes. In the next moment, 3 large carriages appeared in front of everyone. This is? Everyone's eyes shrank. 3 carriages. One of them was filled with bottles of elixirs while the other one was filled with neatly stacked scrolls. Furthermore, the largest carriage was filled with all sorts of rare metals. The metal material was like a small mountain and was abnormally heavy. Even the tiles on the ground were crushed into pieces. Even the wheels of the carriage had sunk in. Fire spirit rock, water rock essence, black jade rock. Su Yorong's face was filled with surprise and disbelief. She could not help but exclaim. Chapter 738. Fire spirit rock, water rock essence, black jade stone. All of these are precious metals used to refine saint weapons, Su Yorong exclaimed in surprise. Xiao Yong, who stood at the side, had his eyes wide open as disbelief surged out from his eyes. With his discerning ability as the guild master of the Inscription Masters Guild, how could he be unable to discern the quality of these materials? All of them were rare metals of the highest grade. These materials would cost at least 5 billion high-grade origin crystal stones, right? Su Yorong asked probingly. Chu Hen nodded and laughed loudly. Sister-in-law, as expected of a family of weapons refiners, you guessed correctly. But where did you get so much money from? What's this? Hua Shui, who stood behind Chu Hen, couldn't help but step forward and say, all of these things added up to 55 billion high-grade origin crystal stones. What? 55 billion? Everyone in the hall sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard this number. Principal Jiang, President Xiao Yong, Qi Wanli, and the others couldn't help but tremble as they felt their heartbeats quicken. However, when they saw Chu Hen was calm and had a faint smile on his face, their hearts were in turmoil, and they couldn't calm down for even a moment. All of these are? Let me introduce them to all of you. Hua Shui acted like a housekeeper as she walked forward and pointed at the first cart and said, there are 500 true spirit heart pills, 500 heavenly energy shaman strength pills, 600 earthen energy tiger soul pills, and 1,200 heavenly explosive blood pills. When everyone heard this, they felt their heads buzzing. With the knowledge of Xiao Yong, Principal Jiang, and the others, they'd naturally heard of the names of these medicinal pills, but they'd merely heard of them. Even the worst heavenly explosive blood pill had a price of 5 to 6 million high-grade origin crystal stones each. Let alone consuming it, an ordinary person wouldn't even have seen it before. Let alone the true spirit heart pill and heavenly energy shaman strength pill that cost more than 10 million high-grade origin crystal stones each. Don't be shocked, there's more. Soon after, Hua Shui began to introduce the sacred weapons and various martial arts manuals on the other 2 carriages to the crowd word by word. After listening to the other party's explanation, all of the General Alliance's higher-ups in the hall were scared stiff. These things in front of them actually cost 55 billion high-grade primal crystal stones. If the person standing in front of everyone was not Chu Hen, most people would not believe that this was true. After staring blankly for a while, everyone recovered one by one. They looked at each other with strange and excited expressions. Ha 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 ha, our General Alliance is going to rise up. With these resources and equipment, within the next 3 years, we will definitely be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the major first-rate sections. This is 2F** King exciting. Everyone was so excited that they almost overturned the table. The gloom that shrouded Xiao Yong's face disappeared in an instant and was replaced by intense excitement and surprise. With these resources, all of the problems in front of the General League would be easily solved. Seeing everyone's surprised expressions, Chu Hen was sincerely happy. After all, this was the organization that he and his elder brother, Long Qingyang, had single-handedly created. Not only did he want the General League to be established, but he also wanted this organization to shine and have a long history. Then, Chu Hen began to distribute the resources. The 500 true spirit heart pills and the various crafting materials were handed over to the Guild of Herbalists to manage. The 500 Tiangang Shaman Power Pills, 600 Ground Spirit Tiger Soul Pills, and 1200 Heaven Vitality Explosive Blood Pills were divided between the family of generals and the Academy Alliance. As for the various martial arts and secret technique scrolls, they were given to the family of generals to manage, while the Guild of Herbalists and the Academy Alliance copied copies from them. Moreover, Chu Hen gave the most practical sacred weapons and sacred armors to Su Yorong, Principal Jiang, and the others to reward according to their contributions. They knew better than Chu Hen how to distribute the rewards. The General League was in an uproar. In less than half a day, the entire imperial city knew that Chu Hen had brought an incomparably large amount of resources to the General League. Moments later, everyone's faces were flushed, and their eyes shone brightly as they left the conference hall. Su Yorong looked at Chu Hen and said in a gratified manner, "If Qingyang knew that you had done so much for the General League, he would definitely be very happy." Chu Hen smiled, then asked, "Did Big Brother say where he was going?" "He said that he was going to visit your second sister at the Ice Mystic Sect, then go to the various provinces of the Eastern Continent to cultivate. He didn't say that he was going to the Eastern Victory Province? No, your elder brother wouldn't go find you. Don't be fooled by his nonchalance, but deep down, he's the same as you. Both of you are very strong. He said that with you by his side, he would never be able to bear the main responsibility as an elder brother. He wants to rely on himself for everything." When Su Yorong said this, there was a hint of gentleness in her eyes. "I originally wanted to go with Qingyang, but he was worried that there were too many dangers out there, so he refused to take me with him. All I can do is take care of the General League's affairs for him." Chu Hen nodded, moved. This was indeed Long Qingyang's style. Perhaps the next time the two brothers met, they would both be pleasantly surprised and surprised. "By the way, sister-in-law, here are 10 billion upper-grade crystals. I forgot to take them out just now." Chu Hen thought of something and took out a few storage rings. Then, he flipped his left hand and took out a dazzling divine armor of flowing shadow. The armor flickered with a fiery red luster, and there seemed to be a faint heat fluctuation in the air. "This is the divine flame blood armor. I'll give it to you as well." "Why are you giving me these?" Su Yorong was shocked. With her eyesight, she could naturally see that this armor was unusual. "The resources you gave us just now are enough for the General League to use for decades. You should keep these for yourself." This divine flame blood armor was a yang-grade item, and it was priced at 3 billion upper-grade crystals. It was also the most valuable treasure in Lu Chuanfeng's collection. Originally, Chu Hen had planned to keep it for himself, but Su Yorong and Long Qingyang were already in love, and she was his future sister-in-law. Naturally, Chu Hen could not mistreat Su Yorong. This divine flame blood armor was a token of his appreciation. Chu Hen still had 25 billion upper-grade crystals on him, and he planned to keep 15 billion for future use while handing the rest to Su Yorong. "Take it. We'll be family from now on, so there's no need to stand on ceremony. I'll have to trouble you to take care of me for the rest of our lives." Su Yorong and Long Qingyang had gotten to know each other during the toughest times in the Hidden Wind region. The most precious thing in life was to have a woman who would not leave a man's side when he was at his lowest point. Of course, everyone had the right to choose their own happiness. Long Qingyang had no right to blame him for leaving. Long Qingyang had stayed to protect him for the rest of his life. Chu Hen was doing this to represent Long Qingyang's sincerity. Su Yorong's heart warmed when she saw the sincerity in Chu Hen's eyes. She took the items from Chu Hen's hands without hesitation. "Sister-in-law, the Misty Wind Empire and the Gigantic Cliff Empire have sent some gifts over to thank the two emperors for their support of our general alliance," Chu Hen said. Su Yorong nodded. "Don't worry. I'll take care of it." Chu Hen laughed heartily. "Sister-in-law, you look like a strong woman now. Teasing me again?" You're asking for a beating. Su Yorong scolded and rolled her eyes at him. She continued, You've rushed over from such a distant place in the eastern Victory State, you must be tired from the journey. I'll arrange a place for you to rest. This time, I'll stay here for a few more days before I leave. No need, we're going to the Thousand Crane sect later. I haven't seen my teacher in a long time, and I want to see her. Chu Hen's eyes glowed with warmth. Chapter 739. The Thousand Crane Sect. The sky was high, the clouds were light, and the mist was coiling around it. Abundant mountain spirit energy was drifting through the mountains while the disciples of the Thousand Crane sect sparred on the various platforms. They seemed young and full of vigor. Rumble. Meanwhile, a dazzling silver pillar of light suddenly shot into the sky from the peak of a mountain. Waves of clouds surged in the sky while powerful waves of energy surged into the sky. Such a huge commotion instantly drew the attention of the disciples of the Thousand Crane sect. It seems to be a teleportation platform. Based on its position, it seems to be a teleportation formation that connects to the Sacred Star Dynasty. Come, let's go take a look. In an instant, many people were alarmed and flashed towards the teleportation platform. Whoosh. In the next instant, a few young figures with extraordinary imposing auras appeared on the teleportation platform. Loud and resounding exclamations of surprise resounded right after that. It's Senior Brother Chu Hen. Senior Brother Chu Hen has returned. What? Chu Hen? Quickly notify the sect master. Compared to the uproar he'd caused in the alliance, this uproar wasn't weak at all. Actually, the relationship between Chu Hen and the Thousand Crane sect was very subtle. In the beginning, Chu Hen had almost become a disciple of the Thousand Crane sect. Later on, because he was a core disciple of the Thousand Crane sect, Ko Tianchen, they didn't get along, and Chu Hen had left halfway through the disciple test. In the end, the sect master, Qi Zhang, had even expressed that the Thousand Crane sect would become allies with him. Now, Chu Hen's status had risen to the same level as Qi Zhang, and they were practically on equal footing. Chu Hen's sudden appearance here caused a huge uproar. Chu Hen, Danzhen, and the others had just left the teleportation platform when many disciples of the Thousand Crane sect surrounded them. Moreover, there were many familiar figures amongst them. Senior Brother Chu Hen, you've returned from Victory East Prefecture? Li Hui? Zhou Lu? Chu Hen's eyes lit up. It was none other than the students who were under Shilan's tutelage in Tensei Prefecture. You too. Chu Hen looked at the two of them in surprise. We've all come to the Thousand Crane sect to cultivate. Zhou Lu spoke with excitement. Chu Hen suddenly understood. Back then, he had heard sect master Qi Zhang mention that the talented young geniuses of the Generals League could enter the sect to cultivate and obtain more orthodox and higher quality martial arts cultivation. It isn't just the two of us. Senior sister Bai Yue, Xiao Yan, senior brother Ji Xian, and the others have come to the Thousand Crane sect as well. Young Miss Yu Chenyu is here as well. Li Hui said excitedly. Hearing these familiar names, Chu Hen's eyes could not help but light up faintly. Humph, I think he has most likely forgotten about me. How could he still remember so much? At this time, a slightly coquettish but cold female voice was heard. Not far in front of him, a graceful and beautiful woman walked out. Chu Hen raised his brows and smiled with interest. I can forget anyone but young Miss Chenyu. Long time no see. How have you been? It was none other than the beloved daughter of the West Ocean Grand General, Yu Chenyu. It could be said that besides Haozi, Yu Chenyu was the first friend of the opposite sex that Chu Hen had made in the imperial capital. After the Sacred Star Dynasty's imperial family was destroyed, the Generals League didn't take away the West Ocean Grand General's military authority. Instead, the West Ocean Grand General was still in charge of the 3 armies and a city. Yu Chenyu had come to the Thousand Crane sect to cultivate with her extraordinary talent. Chu Hen could tell with a single glance that she was at the mid-stage of the void-piercing realm, and she was almost stronger than her father, the West Ocean Grand General. Yu Chenyu pursed her lips when she saw the warm smile on Chu Hen's face, and a trace of bitterness appeared in her eyes. However, she quickly returned to normal, and she puckered her lips and smiled. "Why are you back this time? Are you doing well at Mount Kunlun?" "Yes." Chu Hen nodded. "I won't be able to return for a long period of time, so I took this opportunity to come and see all of you." Yu Chenyu nodded, and she seemed to be slightly reserved. Perhaps it was because there were too many people around them, and she didn't know what to say. At this moment, a few figures with steady auras approached from afar. Everyone present here immediately bowed in greeting. "Greetings, Sect Master." "Greetings, Grand Elder." It was Sect Master Qi Zhang and Grand Elder Duan Qingshan. "Chu Hen, you've returned?" Qi Zhang's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly went over to greet them. "Sect Master, Grand Elder." Chu Hen nodded politely. Their gazes met, and then Qi Zhang couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. "It's only been a little over a year, yet you've already attained the Earth's profound realm." The expressions of all the members of the Thousand Cranes sect changed drastically when they heard this, and they revealed shocked expressions. When Chu Hen left all those years ago, he was only at the peak of the 7th rank of the Void Destruction realm. Such speed was simply unbearable. Even more shocking to Qi Zhang was that with his cultivation at the 5th rank of the Earth's profound realm, he was actually unable to completely suppress Chu Hen in terms of imposing aura. In other words, even though Qi Zhang was 3 ranks higher than Chu Hen, Qi Zhang wasn't 100% confident in his ability to defeat Chu Hen in battle. Qi Zhang couldn't help but exclaim with admiration in his heart. That fellow from Mount Kunlun really didn't misjudge Qin Shi. "Sect Master, let's talk in the guest hall," Grand Elder Duan Qingshan reminded from behind Qin Shi. Right. Qi Zhang realized that he'd lost his composure, and then he greeted Chu Hen's group and said, "Let's go to the guest hall." Chu Hen grinned, and then he gestured to Yu Chenyu, Li Hui, and Zhou Lu to go with him. After all, they were very close friends in the past. In Chu Hen's eyes, there would never be a gap between them. Li Hui's eyes suddenly opened wide. "Wait. Are you Haozi?" Haozi roared with laughter. "Ha ha! Little Li, I shot you so many meaningful glances, yet you only recognized me now?" Li Hui and Zhou Lu exchanged glances. "My God! We really didn't dare to recognize you just now. He's changed too much. In the past, Mouse gave people the feeling that he was a yes-man and was rather timid. Now, he was completely different. His bearing had changed greatly, and it was like the difference between a commoner and a noble. It was no wonder that Li Hui and Zhou Lu hadn't recognized him immediately. A short while later, the guest hall on the Thousand Crane sect's main peak. Before Qi Zhang could speak, Chu Hen asked, "Sect Master, isn't instructor at the Thousand Crane sect?" Chu Hen's intuition told him that Shi Lan wasn't at the Thousand Crane sect. Qi Zhang nodded and said, "Yes, she really isn't here." A trace of disappointment flashed through Chu Hen's eyes. "Where did she go? Did she go on a mission?" "No." Qi Zhang denied it and answered, "She went to the Sky sect in the Eastern Victory State." Eastern Victory State? Sky sect? Chu Hen was stunned, and he was slightly astounded. Instructor went to the Eastern Victory State? On the other hand, Shanzhen, Fu Qin, Hua Shui, and the others couldn't help but exchange glances, and they noticed the surprise in each other's eyes. The Sky sect can be considered as a first-rate sect in the Eastern Victory State, and its strength can be ranked in the top 10 of the entire province, said Shanzhen. Qi Zhang revealed a puzzled expression. "This is? I'm Shanzhen, a disciple of Mount Kunliu's Ascendant Hall." Shanzhen nodded slightly. "So you're an outstanding disciple of Mount Kunliu. Please forgive us for our negligence." Qi Zhang stood up and cupped his fists to express his apology. "Sect leader Qi Zhang, you're too kind. You can continue chatting. There's no need to pay any attention to me. As they exchanged pleasantries, Chu Hen was slightly anxious. He asked with a puzzled expression, "Why did instructor go to the Sky Sect? When did this happen?" "It's not just Shi Lan, Wu Yuan, Yen Han Lu, and many other famous and talented geniuses in the province have been recruited into the Sky Sect as temporary disciples. Young Master Yuan, Wu Yuan. Formation Absolute, Yen Han Lu. Moreover, there are talented disciples from other sects who have been recruited into the Sky Sect?" Chu Hen was even more surprised. The so-called temporary disciples were disciples who had joined other sects to cultivate, but they were still members of the Thousand Crane sect. In the future, if the Thousand Crane sect was in trouble or needed them, they could still be summoned back. What's the Sky sect's intention? It's obvious that they're preparing for the opening of the ancient, desolate heaven territory. Danjun explained again. Upon hearing the words ancient desolate heaven domain, sect leader Qi Zhang's eyes could not help but burn with passion. It was obvious that they already knew about the ancient desolate heaven territory. Chu Hen frowned slightly and looked at Danjun. Danjun understood tacitly. She raised her head slightly and continued. Some sects frequently recruit geniuses from areas outside the East Victory State to expand their overall strength. Due to the difference in regions, those geniuses usually won't refuse the requests of large sects in order to pursue a higher level in the martial Tao. The ancient desolate heaven territory is about to open, and it's a time of need. Naturally, the more talented disciples they have, the better. Qi Zhang nodded. Indeed. The difference between the East Victory State and the 100 Nations State was huge. Compared to the Sky Sect, the large sects in the 100 Nations State were like the heavens and the earth. There was no comparison at all. Those from the younger generation who wanted to pursue the peak of the martial Tao would not miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Although Qi Zhang did not want to see the top geniuses in his sect being poached by the Sky Sect, he could not change their decision. Qi Zhang knew very well that the Thousand Crane sect's ability was limited. He did not want to stifle the growth of his disciples. Therefore, he encouraged Wu Yuan, Shi Lan, Yen Han Lu, and the others to join the Sky Sect. Chu Hen's brows did not relax at all when he heard this. To be honest, he was not happy that Shi Lan had obtained the opportunity to join the Sky Sect. The reason was simple. The East Victory State was too chaotic. It was not only the East Victory State, but more than half of the eastern continent was in chaos as well. To put it nicely, they wanted to nurture more outstanding geniuses. However, in reality, they might be treated as cannon fodder after they entered the ancient desolate heaven territory. Report. Suddenly, at this moment, many figures rushed into the hall in a hurry. The other party's arrival directly broke the silence. Duan Qingshan, the Grand Elder, asked in a deep voice, "What's the matter?" "Sect leader, we just received news that the sect leader of the Sky Sword Pavilion, Mu Feng, massacred nearly 10,000 people in the Otherworldly Spirit sect the day before yesterday. The sect leader of the Otherworldly Spirit sect, Xue Fei Gong, was severely injured and fled in defeat." What? Mu Feng massacred the Otherworldly Spirit sect? Chu Hen's expression changed again. Chapter 740. Reporting to the Sect Master. I have just received news that the head of the Celestial Sword Pavilion, Mu Feng, massacred nearly 10,000 members of the Otherworldly Spirit sect the day before yesterday. The head of the Otherworldly Spirit sect, Flying Snow Palace, was severely injured, and he fled in defeat. What? Upon hearing this news, the silence in the hall was instantly broken. Chu Hen subconsciously stood up from his seat, his eyes filled with deep surprise. "What did you say? Mu Feng has appeared?" Haozi, who was beside him, was also shocked, and his small eyes narrowed. The sect master of the Thousand Crane sect, Qi Zhang, stood up as well, and then he said to Chu Hen in a low voice, "I didn't have the time to tell you. A few days ago, there was some movement from the Skylink Sword Pavilion, and the defensive formation that protected the Sword Pavilion was dispelled. But I didn't expect the Heavenly Sword Pavilion to act so quickly. Just now, Chu Hen had come to ask about Shilan. He hadn't had time to ask about the situation at the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. But before he could finish his words, such an important piece of news came. "Have you seen that Mu Xiongkai?" The one who asked was Great Elder Duan Qingshan. "No. I didn't see Mu Xiongcai at all." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the hall was instantly astounded. Back then, during the Sword Codex meet, the Heavenly Sword Pavilion had met with an unforeseen event. The Shura sect, Illusory Rain sect, and otherworldly spirit sect had ganged up on the Heavenly Sword Pavilion, and the Sword Pavilion Master, Mu Xiongcai, had fought against the three of them alone in the chaotic battle. Mu Xiongcai burned his life essence and defeated the enemies. Mu Feng, who had witnessed his father's life essence being burned to the ground, activated the bloodline limit of the Sword Demon Profound Body in a fit of rage. When the defensive barrier of the Sword Pavilion was activated, he swore a blood oath that when the Sword Demon returned, he would dye the sky red with blood. After nearly 2 years, the Heavenly Sword Pavilion reopened. In just a few short days, news of Mu Feng massacring the otherworldly demonic sect had reached the ears of everyone present. The fact that Mu Feng was so ruthless was enough to show that his heart was filled with hatred. However, Mu Xiongcai did not appear again. The answer was obvious. Report. At this moment, another figure hurriedly rushed into the main hall. "Speak," Qi Zhang said in a deep voice. "Reporting to Sect Master, the Celestial Sword Pavilion's team is already on their way to the Azura sect. On top of that, we've received news from the West that the Illusory Rain sect has already formed an alliance with the Azura sect. On top of that, several people from the Flying Snow Palace who escaped from the otherworldly spirit sect are currently gathering with the two sects. Before the previous wave subsided, another wave arose. The Azura sect, Illusory Rain sect, and otherworldly spirit sect had actually joined forces to resist the assault of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. It was obvious that a chaotic battle that would shake the entire province was about to erupt. In the eyes of the crowd, even though the Celestial Sword Pavilion had defeated the otherworldly spirit sect in one fell swoop and displayed an unstoppable might, the Celestial Sword Pavilion was still a force to be reckoned with. But they definitely couldn't defeat the alliance of the three great sections. Mu Feng's trip to the Azura sect was definitely fraught with grim possibilities. "Sect Master, what should we do?" Duan Qingshan asked. Before Qi Zhang could make a decision, Chu Hen said to Haozi, "Senior brother Haozi, return to the alliance of generals with Qi Ting and Lu Qi immediately. Mobilize all the elites and rush to the Azura sect as soon as possible to assist the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. All right?" Haozi solemnly nodded his head in agreement. Without saying anything else, he led Qi Ting and Lu Qi out of the hall in a hurry. Then, Chu Hen turned around and cupped his fists at Qi Zhang. "Sect Master, let's talk after we return." A trace of determination flashed through Qi Zhang's eyes. The Thousand Crane sect stands on the same side as the Alliance of Generals. I, Qi Zhang, will definitely not sit by and do nothing. Grand Elder, yes. Pass down my orders. Gather everyone in the Thousand Crane sect. It's time to settle the score between us and the Azura sect. Qi Zhang's voice was as loud as thunder, and an invisible pressure was released from his body. Grand Elder Duan Qingshan's eyes turned cold, and he bellowed, "Understood." In less than 2 years, the 100 Nations continent was once again in turmoil. The Heavenly Sword Pavilion's Sword Demon had returned to massacre the otherworldly spirits, and now the Azura sect, the Alliance of Generals and the Thousand Crane sect had formed an alliance. Over the next few days, the entire 100 Nations continent could feel an invisible undercurrent rapidly spreading to every corner of the continent. The news of the otherworldly spirit sect's massacre spread like wildfire, and it swept through all the major factions in the continent. At the same time, everyone could vaguely smell the scent of chaos in the air. Most likely, the otherworldly spirit sect was just the beginning. An even more violent storm was about to fall upon the outer prefectures. Several days later, the moment the first ray of light from the horizon shone through the cloud layer, battle cries that soared to the sky erupted like a tsunami in a large canyon under the main peak of the Azura sect. The Yunluo Gorge was 400 miles long. It was like a natural moat that traversed the east and west of the Shura sect. It looked like a huge natural barrier. This was the Azura sect's most important line of defense. If anyone wanted to invade the Azura sect's mountain gate, they would have to pass through this place. The silence was completely shattered and a storm descended. In an instant, the vast Yunluo Gorge had turned into an intense battlefield. Kill! Kill! The experts from both sides clashed head-on like two waves of beasts, and a dense black wave immediately filled every corner of the gorge. The experts from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion were dressed in black, and their weapons were bound tightly by a cloth band. They exuded a cold and sharp aura. Even if they died in battle, the weapons in their hands would not fall to the ground. All for the sake of vengeance. At the peak of a mountain on the east side of the canyon, the tip of the Buddha demon sword was planted in the ground, perfectly straight between the cracks of the rock. Both of Mu Feng's palms were pressed against the hilt of the Buddha demon sword. A baleful aura surged from his body, and his pair of ice-cold eyes were stained red with hatred. He looked at the intense battle before him with an indifferent expression. His long hair danced in the wind, and his expression was so calm that it sent shivers down one's spine. Kill. The remaining elites of the Azura sect, Illusory Rain sect, and otherworldly spirit sect banded together and charged at the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Even though the Heavenly Sword Pavilion did not have the slightest advantage in terms of numbers. Today, every single one of them had come with the resolve to die in battle. What was the most terrifying person? A madman who did not fear death was the most terrifying. Clearly, the people from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion had all turned into madmen who did not fear death. Audacious brat! Those who offend our Azura sect shall die. At this moment, a dozen or so experts from the Azura sect charged at Mu Feng with intense killing intent. A cruel sneer appeared on Mu Feng's face as he faced the dozen or so menacing people. In the next instant, he raised the Buddha demonic sword in his hand, and an intense blue light erupted from the blade of the sword, Wang. As the sword pierced through the air, the space around it trembled. A blue sword ray that was more than 300 meters long swept through the air and ruthlessly slashed at the crowd. Bang bang bang. Chapter 741. More than a dozen overlapping screams rang out. With the demonic sword in hand, Mu Feng had instantly killed more than a dozen Shura sect experts. A bloody mist drifted as a murderous aura filled the air. However, Mu Feng's eyes did not waver in the slightest. Raising his sword, he charged into the battlefield in front of him and began a merciless massacre of the Shura sect and Illusory Rain sect disciples. Boom! Beams of extremely powerful blue sword aura danced. Every strike Mu Feng unleashed was like the deadly light of death that came from the Grim Reaper. Wherever the sword light went, the enemies would be blasted into pieces. Severed limbs would fly in the air and splatter everywhere. The scene was abnormally bloody and cruel. It was unbearable to watch. In the chaotic battle, an area with a radius of more than 50 kilometers was reduced to a battlefield. The battle between the two sides was like a fierce battle between dragons and tigers. Fierce battles of all sizes extended to every corner of Cloud Luo Gorge, spreading out in every direction. Scarlet blood dyed a large area of the soil red. Corpses were scattered everywhere. Buzz, Mu Feng raised the Buddha demon sword high with both arms. Extremely restless true essence gathered on the blade like a violently throbbing blue flame. The spiritual energy in the surroundings was abnormally restless as the space began to vibrate rhythmically. Startling demonic sword. With a roar, Mu Feng slashed down with his sword. In an instant, A blue sword pillar that spanned 1,000 meters across the sky slashed at the Shura sect and illusory rain sect disciples that were charging at him with the force of splitting a mountain. Boom! The world seemed to lose its color with that one strike. The sword beam that resembled a divine pillar was comparable to the holy light that broke through a huge wave. The boundless blue light rippled high into the air like a tidal wave. A terrifying force came crashing down, instantly slicing through hundreds of enemies. Blood spewed out and flesh flew everywhere. The ground in front of them was immediately split into a huge ravine. The mountain ridge in the middle was split into two and split open from the middle. Rubble and dust flew everywhere. "Evil creature, don't you dare be impudent!" At this moment, a deafening roar came from behind. The black tide surged, and a thick, bloody, and ferocious aura surged towards Mu Feng. Bang! The bright blue light and the surging red killing intent collided, causing chaotic air waves and light balls to explode. Mu Feng took a few steps back and looked at the person who came. A cold light flashed in his eyes. "Refinement failure, you old dog, you've finally crawled out of that dog cage of yours." The newcomer was none other than Ashura sect leader, Lien Kuo. He was one of the main figures who had harmed the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Lien Zhao's face was ferocious as he viciously stared at the other party. "Little bastard, I was careless back then and failed to kill you. I did not expect that it would lead to today's disaster. You are really much more ruthless than your useless father." Mu Feng laughed coldly. "No matter how useless my useless father is, he still got you 3 old dogs to scram out of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion." Buzz. Following that, 2 figures with powerful auras flew over from the other 2 directions. One of them was the sect leader of the Illusory Rain sect, Helian Zhong. The other was the sect leader of the Otherworldly Spirit sect, Shui Fei Gong. These 3 were the top experts of the 100 Kingdoms continent. They surrounded Mu Feng from 3 directions. When enemies met, their eyes blazed with hatred. A few days ago, the Otherworldly Spirit sect was massacred by Mu Feng. Now, the moment Shui Fei Gong saw Mu Feng, he could no longer suppress the killing intent in his heart. "Bastard, you still dare to come here today? Ignorant brat, you are too arrogant." The sect leader of the Illusory Rain sect, Helian Zhong, also had a cold expression. The auras of the 3 experts were overwhelming. With the demonic sword in hand, Mu Feng's cold face showed no signs of fear. "3 old dogs, it's time to settle the debt you owe my Heavenly Sword Pavilion today." As you wish." Shui Fei Gong could no longer control the anger in his heart. He raised a majestic palm and attacked his opponent. A cold glint flashed in Mu Feng's eyes. With a wave of his demonic sword, a powerful sword aura swept toward Shui Fei Gong like a wild dragon rising out of the sea. Bang! The intense collision caused the space to tremble. A surging shock wave swept out from the 2, spreading in all directions. Immediately after, Helian Zhong and Lien Zhao also launched fierce attacks at Mu Feng from the left and right. Intense collisions of quintessential essence continuously blossomed between heaven and earth. The sky was filled with light patterns like a rain of fireworks, causing the space to tremble and ripple endlessly. 2 years ago, the Heavenly Sword Pavilion was in turmoil. Mu Feng awakened the Sword Demon Xian body and greatly activated the limits of his bloodline. The Sword Demon bloodline could be considered a top-notch physique among the Xian bodies. If the limits of his bloodline were activated to the extreme, it could contend with a saint body. Many things had happened and changed in the past 2 years. Now, Mu Feng's cultivation had reached the 4th level of the Earth Profound Realm. With the Buddha's Devil Sword, he could defeat the sect leader of the Otherworldly Spirit sect, Shui Fei Gong, who was at the 5th level of the Earth Profound Realm. However, Mu Feng was not facing just 1/5 level of the Earth Profound Realm expert. There were 3 of them. Under the encirclement of the 3, it was clear that Mu Feng had less offense and more defense. He quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. How dare you come to my Shura sect and behave atrociously with this little ability? Kill him! Buzz! After saying that, Lian Zhao's blood and qi surged. A thick blood-colored mist rose between his arms. Then, he pushed his palms toward Mu Feng. Rumble! An incomparably powerful blood-colored path flowed down like the Milky Way, rolling up a terrifying force. The space trembled. The mighty force was like an army of thousands of horses galloping toward them. 1,000 net critical strike. At the same time, Helian Zhong and Xue Fei Gong unleashed their powerful auras at the same time. Illusion art, lightning tribulation mending the heavens. Clang. Thunder rumbled, and the sky darkened in an instant. Thick dark clouds squeezed together, covering the sky and pressing down on the people below. The crisscrossing lightning was like thousands of silver snakes, shrouding the sky above Mu Feng's head. Storm Nebula Fist. The sect leader of the otherworldly spirit sect, Xue Fei Gong, also released a powerful aura. He punched out, and the true yuan that was like a tsunami formed into a tornado. Within the tornado, there seemed to be a ferocious and terrifying beast roaring. Endless gray light surged, and the powerful force seemed to tear the space apart. The extremely powerful attacks of 3 experts at the 5th level of the Earth Profound Realm blotted out the sky and covered the Earth. Like 3 torrents, they all surged towards Mu Feng, who was in the center area. In an instant, the entire world was in a state of violent distortion. The violent and powerful wind waves intertwined with each other. The strength of this force was enough to shatter anyone who was caught in it. An unstoppable pressure surged toward Huang Xiaolong like a raging storm. Just when everyone thought that Mu Feng was about to lose his life, a cold glint like a sharp sword appeared in his eyes. The wrath of the heavens, the appearance of the ferocious devil, the appearance of the sword pagoda, Great Pagoda demonic art. Boom! In the next instant, several dark blue light pillars intertwined with each other and shot into the sky. Mu Feng raised the demonic sword in his hand high up, and a dazzling blue light burst out. Sword pagoda. A thunderous sound swept out, and the dark blue light pillars that intertwined with each other rapidly merged together, forming an ancient pagoda that was over 1,000 meters tall. A vast and surging aura of desolation spread out between heaven and earth. Endless blue light rose and blossomed. Boom! Bang! In an instant, the terrifying blood-colored great path, thousands of lightning tribulations, and the powerful fist force that resembled a nebulous storm. 3 extremely destructive forces attacked the space where Mu Feng was. The violent power was like the roar of the wind, the frenzied tide of ferocious beasts, and the light patterns that were released rose and fell undulating in the sky. The 9 heavens were about to be pierced through by the soaring airwaves. The powerful shock waves surged toward the surroundings, causing many people from the sects who were fighting nearby to vomit blood and fly backward. As the light patterns scattered, the violent shock waves dispersed, and an ancient pagoda that was 1,000 meters tall once again appeared between heaven and earth. This was the move that Mu Xiongcai, the master of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion, had once used. Now it had appeared once again. At this moment, Mu Feng was actually standing at the top of the ancient pagoda, holding the pagoda demonic sword in his hand, looking down at Lian Xiao, Helian Zhong, and Flying Snow Palace. His gaze was like a torch, and his aura was awe-inspiring. What? He wasn't injured at all? Lian Xiao and the other 2's expressions changed. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. The stronger the bloodline limit of the sword demon Xian body, the greater the power of the great pagoda demonic art. Could it be that the purity of Mu Feng's bloodline limit was even higher than Mu Xiongcai's? Shock. Absolute shock. But in exchange for their shock, they were filled with unforgivable murderous intent. Kill him first! Lian Xiao shouted sternly. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, a few more figures with powerful auras, who had reached the Earth Profound Realm, flew out from the chaotic battlefield below. One of them was the Shura sect's enforcement elder, Yusha. The Shura sect, the illusory rain sect, the otherworldly spirit sect. All the profound world realm experts flew around Mu Feng, surrounding him in the center. It was obvious that Lian Xiao planned to gather the strength of all the profound world realm experts and directly kill Mu Feng. He had no intention of giving his opponent any chance to retreat. Buzz buzz. Nearly 10 profound world realm experts released a terrifying and powerful aura at the same time. The sky changed color and the wind howled angrily. With Mu Feng as the center, the entire space fell into an extremely uneasy rhythm. Everyone from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion was shocked. No matter how strong Mu Feng was, it was impossible for him to withstand the attack of so many profound world realm experts. Heh! The Shura sect's enforcement elder, Yusha, laughed sinisterly. You should be proud to die under the combined attack of so many of us. After we slaughter your Heavenly Sword Pavilion, the next step will be that arrogant General Alliance. Whoosh! Right at this critical moment, monstrous dark clouds surged down from the sky above the 9 heavens. Along with a mountain-like pressure, a ray of silver light suddenly shot down diagonally. It was like an aurora that came from the galaxy, and it struck Yusha with a force that could destroy mountains and rivers. What followed was a deafening bang sound. That pillar of light landed heavily in the valley below, along with Yusha's body. In an instant, a terrifying wave of silver light shot up into the sky like a tsunami. The ground sank deep into the ground, forming a huge crater. The ground cracked inch by inch, and debris flew into the sky like a swarm of locusts. Chapter 742. Bang! The mountains crumbled and the earth cracked. It was like a thunderbolt. A terrifying force descended from the sky, smashing Yusha's body heavily into the canyon below. The incomparably powerful shockwave was comparable to that of a falling meteor, accompanied by an endless burst of silver light. The ground caved in deeply, forming a huge crater, the ground cracked inch by inch, and a thick layer of rock was blown off. The sky was filled with gravel, flying nearly 100 meters into the sky. The majestic aura directly sent the surrounding sect disciples flying. The expressions of everyone present changed greatly. As dust flew into the air, another fierce young figure appeared in the pit that had been reduced to ruins. The previously aggressive Yusha was now sprawled on the ground. The young figure's right knee was directly pressed against Yusha's spine. The latter's body was greatly bent, and his internal organs and bones were all shattered. His eyes were wide open, as if he had died with a grievance. The Shura sect's enforcement elder Yusha was instantly killed on the spot. In that instant, everyone felt a chill run down their spines. Humph! An indifferent smile rose from the corner of the young man's mouth. He slowly got up and casually brushed off the dust on his body. You still want to slaughter my General League? You talk too much. Whoosh! An invisible, biting cold aura spread out. He then raised his head, revealing a handsome young face. The sharp contours of his face were cold and handsome, as if they had been carved by a knife. It's you. The expressions of Lian Xiao, Flying Snow Palace, Helian Zhong and the others changed abruptly. Every one of their eyes revealed deep shock. How could this be? How long had it been since they last met? Had the other party's strength already become so powerful? Seeing that familiar face, a glimmer of light appeared in Mu Feng's eyes. He said somewhat frivolously, "You've come just in time. How could I be absent when my brother is busy?" Chu Hen said with a faint smile. "Just you alone? Then you really shouldn't have come," Mu Feng said in a low voice. "No, I'm here too." At this moment, a loud and clear voice exploded in the sky on the other side. Boom! The earth-shattering golden light tide was like the endless water of the heavenly river, surging over. Then, within the torrential golden splendor, a giant heavenly mouse rushed out. Rumble with an unstoppable momentum, the Skyrat phantasm charged straight at the Azura sect, illusory rain sect, and otherworldly spirit sect disciples. In an instant, a large number of disciples were crushed to smithereens by the ferocious attack, as if they had been crushed by a mountain. Another expert at the profound earth realm, everyone from the heavenly sword pavilion and Azura sect turned pale with fright. On the other hand, Mu Feng's pupils couldn't help but tremble. He couldn't help but clench his fists together. Apart from being shocked, a deep sense of joy appeared on his face. Ha 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 ha, brother, I howsy am here. A young man with small eyes stood proudly in the sky, exuding a powerful aura that shook the surroundings. Looking at this familiar person in front of him, Mu Feng was really surprised. After not seeing each other for so many years, the word brother was enough to comfort him. Kill! Roar! Then, a mighty army of demonic beasts crossed the mountains and charged towards them. The reinforcements of the General League arrived soon after. Principal Jiang, Guild Leader Qiao Yong, Su Yorong, Qi Wanli, Dong Guohong, and the others. Many experts of the Frost Alliance led the Heavenly Beast Army to spearhead the assault on the enemies of the Azura sect, Illusory Rain sect, and Otherworldly Spirit sect. The General League is here. What? These stupid rabble! Lian Shao cursed with a gloomy expression. But just as he finished speaking, rumble! On the other side of the sky, there was a sudden clap of thunder. The wind blew and the clouds surged. The surging momentum was like a galloping army. Figures with extraordinary auras stepped through the air. Without saying a word, they threw themselves into the chaotic battle to assist the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. The Thousand Crane sect is here. Boom! Bang! A chaotic battle that was countless times more intense than before suddenly erupted in the sky above the Cloud Luo Gorge. The earth quaked, the mountains shook, and the sky was in chaos. Sword light crisscrossed, spear light shot out. All sorts of gorgeous combat techniques collided like rainbows, causing waves of energy to surge. The momentum of the Azura sect's three-sect alliance was immediately suppressed. With the addition of the Thousand Crane sect and the General League, the situation on the Heavenly Sword Pavilion's side took a sharp turn, and their morale was greatly boosted. Bastard! Lian Shao was furious, and he immediately pointed at Mu Feng, who stood at the top of the sword pagoda, and shouted, "Quickly, kill this little bastard first." But as soon as he finished speaking, a dazzling golden beam of light shot down diagonally like a laser, rolling up a powerful murderous aura and rushing over. Bang! A majestic wave of true essence exploded between the heavens and the earth. Tens of thousands of golden patterns splashed out, but Lian Shao was forced back by this impact. Then, he steadied himself and roared with extreme hatred, "Qi Zhang, what can I do for you?" A frivolous voice assaulted Lian Zhao's face. The Thousand Crane sect's sect master, Qi Zhang, stood in midair while his entire body was enveloped by powerful true essence. A vertical eye flickered with a dazzling light gold light at the center of his brows, and he emanated a pure, imposing aura that was dignified like a god. "Do you really intend to interfere in the matters of my Azura sect?" Lian Zhao's killing intent surged while a bright glow erupted from his eyes, and he wished for nothing more than to tear Qi Zhang apart. "Humph!" Qi Zhang laughed coldly, and then he flicked his sleeve and said, "Lian Shao, it's time to put an end to the enmity between your Azura sect and my Thousand Crane sect. That would depend on if you have the ability." Lian Mang was enraged. The veins on his forehead and neck were bulging. He shouted at Flying Snow Palace, Helian Zhong, and the other Earth Profound Realm experts, "Kill these little bastards who don't know what's good for them." Swish! As soon as he finished speaking, Lian Shao dragged a ray of blood-red light behind him as he charged towards Qi Zhang. Blood Shadow Profound Body. Bang! Whoosh! A strand of scarlet-red blood energy instantly surged out from within Lian Zhao's body, and the dense baleful aura he emanated was over 10 times stronger than before. In an instant, Lian Zhao's hair fluttered in the wind while the veins on his body bulged up. His bones and body had grown slightly larger, and even sharp nails had grown out of his hands. "Qi Zhang, I'll make sure your Thousand Crane sect doesn't leave today. Hiss. Along with the sound of air being torn apart, a narrow, long, and sharp bone blade had actually grown out from the center of Lian Zhao's palms. These two bone blades were extraordinarily sharp and fierce, and Chen Shi had no doubt that his skin would definitely split apart upon coming into contact with them. Qi Zhang wasn't afraid in the slightest, and he faced Lian Zhao's attack with his bare hands. OM. As he moved, Qi Zhang's arms were actually suffused with a strand of material silver-colored powder, and in an instant, his hands had become hard and stiff like rocks. Bang! Their attacks collided head-on. True essence surged while waves of energy shot into the sky. Both sides refused to give way to each other, and neither was weaker than the other. Lian Zhao's intention was very simple. He would hold back Qi Zhang while the rest of the people surrounded and attacked Mu Feng. However, it was also at this moment that a dazzling silver beam of light flashed through the void, and a piercingly cold aura directly attacked the illusory rain sect's sect master, Helian Zhong. You're courting death. Helian Zhong's eyes turned cold as he formed a palm with one hand, and he struck at the incoming phantom. In the next instant, a heavy leg covered in the power of dark lightning swept horizontally at Helian Zhong. Bang! A dull explosion reverberated in the sky, and space trembled violently. Chaotic dark lightning splashed everywhere. The leg and palm collided head-on, and the incomparably fierce impact was comparable to the impact of a mountain. Helian Zhong's body trembled, and he was directly sent flying back. Mu Feng's eyelids twitched, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. He murmured softly, "Looks like even after activating the Sword Demon bloodline, it's still difficult for me to surpass you. Chu Hen, little bastard, die." At this moment, the otherworldly spirit sect's sect master, Xue Fei Gong, had already arrived in front of Mu Feng. The powerful force of his palm was comparable to a flood that broke through a dam, and with the momentum of lightning, it blasted toward Mu Feng. Humph! The corner of Mu Feng's mouth curled up in disdain. He raised the pagoda demon sword, and it emitted a dazzling blue light as he blocked the other party's attack. Boom! The flying snow palace's palm energy solidly struck the blade of the Buddha's demonic sword. The blue light surrounding Mu Feng's body immediately became restless. It was like a flame being blown by a strong wind, recklessly flowing and fluctuating. Mu Feng's feet were immediately dragged back from the top of the ancient pagoda. Xue Fei Gong's eyes were bloodshot, and he could not wait to devour Mu Feng's flesh and drink his blood. The otherworldly spirit sect had lost nearly 10,000 people. Even if he killed everyone from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion today, there would be no otherworldly spirit sect left in the 100 Kingdoms province. It was easy to imagine how much hatred Xue Fei Gong had for Mu Feng. At the same time, the other profound world realm experts also pounced toward Mu Feng like ferocious wolves and tigers, intending to assist Xue Fei Gong in killing Mu Feng first. Don't forget that I'm still here. Haozi sneered frivolously. He immediately turned into a ray of light and dashed out. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of an profound world realm expert and blocked his path. Roar! Immediately after, a deafening roar of a ferocious beast shook the entire Cloud Luo Gorge. A gigantic beast covered in rock armor, hard scales, and a pair of wings on its back came whistling through the air. The might of the Beast King overwhelmed everyone present. Shi Yan's evil dragon beast opened its huge claws and pounced on a profound world realm expert from the Azura sect. The latter was caught off guard and was struck down from the sky, crashing into a mountain peak. Boom! Chapter 743. Roar! The mutated Shi Yan evil dragon's ferocious might shook the heavens and was peerlessly domineering. Its furious attack killed a profound world realm expert from the Shura sect with lightning speed. The terrifying power caused more than half of the mountain to collapse. Such a spectacular scene was a shock to the eyes of countless people. Shudder! Everyone shuddered. Chu Hen had only left the province for slightly more than a year, yet he had displayed such terrifying strength upon his return. Profound world realm companion, beast emperor, the strength he displayed was not any weaker than the sect master of the illusory rain sect. Kill. Charge. Trample the Shura sect, the Heavenly Sword Pavilion, the Thousand Crane sect, and the General Alliance were invincible. For the sake of supporting Mufong, Chu Hen didn't hold back at all, and he mobilized all the elites of the General Alliance. The Demon Beast army charged at the front and broke through the enemy's formation. The experts of the Thousand Cranes sect followed closely behind and seized the opportunity to launch a frenzied slaughter. The Thousand Cranes sect and the Shura sect were mortal enemies. He didn't show any mercy when he attacked. Sharp, ice-cold blades mercilessly stabbed into the enemy's chest and heart, blood dyed the ground red. Broken corpses lay on the ground in Yunluo Gorge. The battle line continued to extend and lengthen. The entire canyon was filled with battle cries. The cruel scene was just like the rumored Azura Hell. It's really chaotic. Danjun, Fu Qin, and the others stood at the peak of a mountain and watched the intense battle in front of them. Even though they came from Mount Kunliu, they couldn't help but be moved by the scene. Go if you want to, Danjun said to Qin, Qi Shu, Hua behind her. After all, this was a battle between the major sections. As an outsider, Mount Kunliu couldn't interfere in this matter. However, Qin, Qi, Hua, and Qin wanted to help Chu Hen. It was obvious from their restless eyes that they didn't want to stand by and watch. Won't the Hall Master blame us if we do that? Hua Shui asked. Danjun smiled indifferently. Blame what? Isn't Chu Hen the future sect master of Mount Kunliu? Isn't the sect master's matter our Mount Kunliu's matter? The eyes of the four girls lit up. If you guys aren't going to make a move, then I'll be making a move first. As soon as he finished speaking, Shan Zhen immediately transformed into a ray of light and shot out. Dazzling and resplendent golden patterns of light spread out from his body like spirit vines. In the next moment, the golden light patterns that spread out with Danjun at the center quickly solidified. They immediately transformed into a majestic and domineering giant golden eagle. Screech, the loud and clear eagle's cry resounded through the mountains and rivers, and the powerful sound waves shook everyone's eardrums. With a loud screech, the giant golden hawk that Shanzhen had transformed into crashed into an earth-profound realm expert from the illusory rain sect with the force of a collision. It was earth-shattering, and the void trembled. The terrifying energy that was like a volcanic eruption directly surged into the sky. The powerful shockwave was like a huge tide that spread endlessly, causing the sky to darken and the earth to lose color. The earth-profound realm expert from the illusory rain sect did not even have the chance to scream before he was blasted into pieces by the powerful impact. What? It was actually another earth-profound realm expert? Lian Xiao, Flying Snow Palace, Helian Zhong, and the others were both shocked and furious. They were extremely shocked. Where did Chu Hen find so many helpers? Every one of them was terrifyingly strong. If the situation continued to develop like this, even if Lian Xiao and the others won today, their vitality would be greatly damaged, and it would be difficult for them to recover for a long time. Senior brother Shanzhen is too fast. Before Zither, Jishu, and the others could react, Shanzhen had already made his move. It really made them a little speechless. Immediately, the four girls flew out one after another without any hesitation and threw themselves into the chaotic battle. Zither, Jishu, and Go all possessed extraordinary combat strength. As a medical master, Hua Shui directly activated Mount Kunliu's strongest medical secret technique, the accumulating spirit saint origin technique. Boom! In an instant, a dazzling holy radiance erupted from Hua Shui's body. Beams of white light were released from her body, and then they fell into the bodies of the Thousand Crane sect, Heavenly Sword Pavilion, and the General's alliances injured. Something that shocked everyone happened. The injuries on the injured were instantly healed. Fluorescent light flowed around their bodies as their wounds healed and scabs formed, and they once again erupted with powerful vitality. Their injuries healed just like that. What's going on? Amidst their shock, everyone turned around and saw Hua Shui, who was emanating immortal qi, and they were instantly overjoyed. It's Miss Hua Shui. Someone from the General's Alliance shouted. Isn't she too powerful? It's a healing technique. Kill. With Hua Shui's powerful assistance, the morale of the General's Alliance, Thousand Crane Sect, and Heavenly Sword Pavilion skyrocketed. All of them immediately became fearless, and they charged into the enemy's ranks to slaughter them. Meanwhile, the Shura Sect, Illusory Rain Sect, and Otherworldly Spirit Sect were in a complete panic. How were they supposed to fight? They were already completely suppressed in terms of morale, and now that such a monstrous assistance had appeared, there was no way they could fight. Although Hua Shui's spirit accumulation of sacred qi was powerful, there were too many people here. It did not take long for Hua Shui's pretty face to turn pale, and the Reiki energy in her brain palace was rapidly depleting. Jishu returned to Hua Shui's side and warned, "Don't take care of everyone. You won't be able to take care of everyone. Heal those who are more seriously injured." "I got it." Hua Shui nodded, and then withdrew a portion of her Saint Qi, mainly to heal those who were more seriously injured. Damn it! Lian Xiao, who was fighting the Thousand Crane Sect's sect master Qizhang, was enraged when he saw the current situation. Their previously advantageous situation had been destroyed just like that. He roared at Helian Zhong and Flying Snow Palace, "Why are you still stalling for time? Hurry up and kill these two little thieves." From the crowd's point of view, Qizhang was the strongest among them. With Lian Xiao holding Qizhang back, the others just needed to speed up and finish off Chu Hen and Mu Feng, and they would be able to turn the tide. Unbeknownst to them, the other two were inwardly complaining. Back at the Otherworldly Spirit Sect, Flying Snow Palace had already lost to Mu Feng once. Even though they had learned from their past mistakes, it was still difficult for them to reverse the situation in a short period of time. As for Helian Zhong, he was even more aggrieved. Chu Hen, who was only in the second order of the Earth Profound Realm, had a terrifyingly strong physical body. In addition to that, Helian Zhong, who specialized in illusions, was clearly his weakness in close combat. Chu Hen had completely grasped Helian Zhong's weakness. With his golden body, he didn't even give Helian Zhong time to use his illusions. Step by step, he pressed on, beating Helian Zhong until he had no way to retaliate. Buzz! A majestic and monstrous aura erupted from Chu Hen's body. A powerful black light covered his entire arm like the flames of the netherworld. Bang! A heavy shockwave exploded in the air. The power of Chu Hen's fist was like a mountain as it collided with Helian Zhong's fist attack. A circle of black ripples spread out in the sky. Helian Zhong's body trembled. The blood in his body surged, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The terrifying impact directly sent him flying. Sect Master, the disciples of the Illusory Rain sect were shocked. In the next moment, a powerful sword force gushed out from Chu Hen's body. A dozen or so condensed black sword lights appeared out of thin air in front of Chu Hen. Moreover, they erupted with a desolate aura. They flew out, and took advantage of the momentum to slash towards Helian Zhong. However, facing the piercingly cold sword energy flying in front of him, a cold smile appeared on Helian Zhong's face. I've been waiting for this moment. I'm sorry to tell you, you're finished. Ta. Suddenly, Helian Zhong clasped his 10 fingers together and formed a strange seal. An invisible and powerful aura was quickly released from his body. Illusion, Heavenly Cage of Darkness. Illusion, Heavenly Cage of Darkness, boom! As Helian Zhong's voice fell, a boundless and cold aura suddenly extended into the world. The sky above Chu Hen was immediately covered by dark clouds, covering the sky and covering the sun. Waves of restless spatial rhythms surged over. Darkness like the curtain of night quickly descended, quickly devouring every ray of light in the space where Chu Hen was. The dozen sword beams that flew towards the opponent also collapsed between heaven and earth, turning into fragments that filled the sky and disappeared into the darkness. The bright and beautiful day a second ago had instantly turned into night. The strongest illusion of the illusory rain sect, heavenly cage of darkness. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen found himself in a strange dark space. Everything around him became extremely far away. He could only see the outline of a black shadow, and he could not clearly distinguish the color. The distorted space was like a dream or an illusion. Chu Hen was no stranger to this move. Back at the Heavenly Sword Pavilion's Sword Codex, Illusory Rain Sect's core disciple Huanju Xiaorumen had used it. At that time, her opponent was one of the four great young masters, Cui Qi. At that time, the battle between Xiaorumen and Cui Qi could be said to be a magnificent feast for the eyes. And now, those two people had gone to the Eastern Victory States Taiqing sect with Wu Yuan, Xilan, Yan Hanlu, and the others. To be honest, the relationship between Huanju, Xiaorumen, and Chu Hen was quite subtle. They were like friends, but not friends, and enemies, but not enemies. Of course, this did not affect the enmity between Chu Hen and the Illusory Rain sect. It's my turn now. Helianzhong's cold laughter came from all directions. His body also merged into the endless darkness, completely disappearing in front of Chu Hen. As the sect master of the Illusory Rain sect, Helianzhong had a lot of combat experience. He had purposely endured Chu Hen's punch in order to increase the distance between him and Chu Hen so that he could use the illusion technique he was most proficient in. Otherwise, with Chu Hen's extremely fast pace in close combat, he would not have had the time to use this heavenly cage of darkness. In an instant, all kinds of destructive power surged towards Chu Hen from all directions. Brothers, your rewards for the past few days have been really awesome. Today, you have received 10,000 rewards again. Thank you to Brother Xingqian for being promoted to the leader of this book's fan ranking. I will continue to work hard. Chapter 744. Illusion, Heavenly Cage of Darkness. The endless dark space was like a dream, showing an illusory and distorted state. Chu Hen was immediately trapped in this strange dark area. Everything in the surroundings had been pulled far away, as if they were separated by a very long distance. It's my turn next. Helianzhong, who had merged with the darkness, let out a cold and proud smile. In his opinion, as long as he seized the opportunity to use the illusion, Chu Hen would definitely die. Rumble, all kinds of destructive energy surged from all directions around Chu Hen. The scorching sea of fire in front of him was rushing toward him, and the raging torrent and tsunami behind him was attacking. On his right was the unstoppable tens of thousands of lightning pillars, and on his left was the endless rain of light and wind blades. The abnormally violent power of the four symbols appeared in all directions around Chu Hen at this moment. It had to be said that compared to the heavenly cage of darkness that Xiaorumen had used during the sword code gathering, the power that Helianzhong had erupted with was many times stronger. 4 waves of raging energy rushed towards Chu Hen, who was in the middle, with a momentum that could topple mountains and overturn the seas, shaking the heavens. Buzz! Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and a powerful and fierce aura erupted from his body. The powerful black light stacked up like a raging wave. Then, Chu Hen's figure moved, leaping even higher into the sky. His body quickly rotated, and the powerful wave of air between the heaven and earth formed a powerful whirlpool tornado, one sword deity, myriad sword calamity. Swish, swish, swish. In the next moment, countless incomparably fierce black sword lights burst out from Chu Hen's body. Like 10,000 swords returning to their origin, they splashed and slashed in all directions. Boom! Bang! The incomparably powerful sword rain fiercely and fiercely collided with the enormous power of the 4 symbols. Continuous loud noises resounded, undulating in the dark cage. The rain of fire flew, water splashed, lightning flashed, and wind blades shattered. Although the illusory power here was extremely powerful, it was all blocked by Chu Hen's sword light 100 meters away. The dense rain of swords that filled the sky came one after another, and there seemed to be a huge, illusory, and transparent circular protective sword shield around Chu Hen's body. The protective sword barrier acted like a protective shield, blocking all external attacks. A cold shout came from the darkness. Ta! Like two palms intersecting, the sound of rapid hand seals caused faint air waves to ripple. Boom! Immediately after, an even more majestic aura burst forth. A sea of fire, a torrent, a lightning region, and a rain of wind blades, all of them soared into the sky, and the entire darkness prison became abnormally chaotic. Along with a series of earth-shattering roars, a ferocious and terrifying monster rushed out of the four areas filled with violent energy. Scorching heat waves covered the sky and covered the earth. In front of them was a flaming winged tiger that shook the mountains and rivers. Icy coldness caused water to splash in all directions, and then a snow-white WRM surged through the air. Within the lightning region that was covered in crisscrossing lightning, a lightning bird that was covered in silver light whistled through the air. Moreover, within the rain of wind blades was a heavenly horse that had 4 wings on its back, and it stood on a green light. All 4 of these colossi were over a kilometer long, and their ferocious auras were shocking and awe-inspiring. Moreover, the auras of these ferocious beasts were extremely shocking, and it was impossible to distinguish if they were real or formed by an illusory technique. The members of the various powers outside the illusory realm were shocked when they sensed the imposing auras that erupted from the 4 colossi within the darkness prison. Shit! Quickly go help Chu Hen. Su Yorong was the first to be unable to restrain herself from speaking anxiously. The members of the Thousand Cranes sect and Skylink Sword Pavilion couldn't help but reveal solemn expressions as well. Qi Zhang's brows knit together tightly, and he intended to flash towards the darkness prison. However, before he could escape 100 meters away, a blood-red pillar of light soared into the sky in front of him. With the momentum of piercing through the air, it blocked the other party's path. Don't forget that I'm your opponent. Lien Fu's hair was disheveled, and his savage face seemed like that of a devil. How could he allow Qi Zhang to assist Chu Hen at a time like this? The blood-red bone blades that grew out of his palms flickered with a dazzling and bloody aura as they attacked Lien Fu in a dense barrage. Mu Feng, who was locked in fierce battle with Flying Snow Palace, frowned slightly. The former's attacks had clearly become even swifter, and the tempo of the attacks was increasing. Obviously, both sides were trying to buy time for Helianzhong. So long as they dealt with Chu Hen first, then the current situation could still be turned around. A fierce battle erupted in the heavens and the earth. All sorts of shockwaves exploded within Cloud Luo Gorge, and the ground had sunk down into numerous enormous holes. Ridges after ridges were flattened and reduced to ruins. Senior brother Shanzhen, go help Chu Hen, Hua Shui exclaimed. However, Shanzhen had no intention of interfering at all. He hovered in midair with an awe-inspiring aura as he said, "Don't worry. It's still early. I still want to see the other techniques of the one-sword flying immortal technique." Everyone was slightly stunned. Even the members of the General Alliance who'd flown over to assist Helianzhong couldn't help but stop in their tracks. Roar! Woo! At practically the exact same moment, the space within the darkness prison started to tremble and warp indeterminately. 4 colossi emanated monstrous rage and ferociousness as they charged towards Chu Hen at the center. The fierce rain of swords struck their bodies, but the damage was limited. It was difficult to withstand the aura of these 4 colossi. Suddenly, a faint light flashed across the corner of Chu Hen's eyes. With a thought, a resonant metallic hum sounded, and a holy sword flashing with green light patterns suddenly appeared in front of Chu Hen. Chu Hen formed a sword art with one hand, and the blue sky sacred sword shone brightly. It circled around Chu Hen's body, and then split into four, transforming into four identical blue sky sacred sword. Swoosh! In an instant, the four blue sky swords shot out in four different directions like arrows released from a bow. Boom! An especially powerful and astonishing sword aura surged out. In the process of meeting the four enormous beasts, the four sky jade swords simultaneously blossomed with a dazzling brilliance that was like the sun. Countless green light patterns were released from the swords and intertwined to form an enormous sword light that was hundreds of meters long. Subsequently, under the astonished gazes of the spectators, four enormous green sword lights struck the four gigantic beasts at the same time. Bang! Boom! In the next second, the entire dark cage suddenly became colorful and dazzling. The gorgeous airwave energy was like a stormy sea, wantonly stacking and blending together. A heavy and violent sound rang out like a thunderstorm. The flame-winged tiger, the white flood dragon, the lightning divine bird, and the four-winged Pegasus all collided with the four sword lights and exploded into pieces. Countless green sword lights flew out in a disorderly manner. Fireballs, waves of water, lightning arcs, wind blades. All sorts of chaotic forces were like a storm that swept across the world, and it almost tore the illusory space apart. He actually blocked it? Everyone from the major factions was shocked. The Generals' Alliance, Thousand Crane Sect, and Heavenly Sword Pavilion were all amazed. As for the Shura Sect, Illusory Rain Sect, and Otherworldly Spirit Sect, their faces were dark, shocked, and furious. Looks like the Illusory Rain Sect's illusory arts are only SOSO. An indifferent and frivolous laugh came out of Chu Hen's mouth. Hum! The space trembled, and a powerful purple fireball erupted from Chu Hen's body. The dense purple light covered the sky and the earth, completely enveloping Chu Hen. Then Chu Hen's eyelids twitched, and an invisible wave of energy surged out. His pitch-black eyes immediately turned a demonic purple. The power of his demonic eyes was quietly unleashed. In the next moment, in the dark area several hundred meters ahead of him, a blurry figure appeared under Chu Hen's demonic eyes. Chapter 745. So it was hidden there. An indifferent mocking voice came out from Chu Hen's mouth. Under the probing of the power of the demon eye, the other party had nowhere to hide. Looking at the hazy figure in the area shrouded in darkness for several hundred meters, Chu Hen suddenly raised his hand and flipped it. An extremely dense purple light burst out from between his hands. The dazzling light caused everyone to squint their eyes involuntarily. Amidst the radiant sun-like purple brilliance, there was a scroll-like object that was being flipped open in his palm. Buzz! Immediately after, a golden pillar of light pierced through the sky in front of Chu Hen. The world spun and the space trembled. Roar! Accompanied by a deafening roar of a ferocious beast, a domineering colossus shockingly appeared in the dark cage. The earth-shattering aura of the beast emperor shocked everyone. It was a violent earth bear king that was hundreds of meters tall. This is... Everyone who witnessed this was completely astounded. Where did this violent Earth Bear King come from? Illusion. That's right. I remember that Chu Hen also mastered some kind of illusion in the past. Without giving anyone time to think, the ferocious violent Earth Bear King directly burst out with a majestic aura that was comparable to a mountain and charged toward the area where Helian Zhong was. Roar! A dazzling golden light burst out from its body, and the darkness in the area in front was expelled. Under the illumination of the strong light, Helian Zhong, who was hidden in the darkness, was faintly visible to everyone. He was hiding there. Humph! Faced with the menacing violent Earth Bear King, Helian Zhong's face revealed a dense disdain. He lifted his eyes, crossed his hands to form a seal, and cried out in a stern voice. Stinking brat, you're still too inexperienced to use an illusion in front of me. A vigorous and powerful wave of air spread out from Helian Zhong's body. Illusion, dispel. Dispel. The thunderous momentum surged abnormally. Vast and mighty white light patterns swept out with Helian-Zhong as the center. Moreover, they gushed towards the body of the violent Earth Bear King. However, the scene that everyone expected to see the illusion unravel did not appear. As soon as the white halo touched the Earth-raging Bear King's body, it immediately shattered. It didn't even cause the slightest bit of damage to the Bear King. What? Helian-Zhong's expression changed abruptly. He was greatly shocked in his heart, and unprecedented panic and disbelief surged into his round eyes. This is not an illusion. Roar! Before Helian-Zhong could finish his words, the violent Earth Bear King's huge palm, which was as big as a house or palace, whizzed toward him. The dazzling golden light completely covered the Earth-violent Bear King's huge palm, as if it was gathering the power of the sun's divine radiance. Hiss! An incomparably dull explosion exploded between the heavens and the earth. Everyone's hearts could not help but tremble violently. The huge golden bear paw firmly slammed into Helian-Zhong's tiny body with the force of a thunderbolt. Under the terrifying pressure, the golden bear paw forcefully blasted Helian-Zhong out of the cage of darkness. Then, it heavily slammed into a mountain ridge in the region below. Boom! The abnormally violent destructive force caused the mountains to collapse and the ground to crack. The mountain ridge was flattened into ruins. A vast and surging wave swept out along the ground. Rocks collapsed and flew everywhere. The mountain ridge caved in deeply, and the surrounding mountain ridges were flattened into ruins. Countless deep cracks spread out along the mountain walls, forming many faults in the ground. The appearance of this scene caused everyone present to tremble with fear, especially the people from the illusory rain sect. They were so frightened that their faces turned ashen. Bang! With a loud bang, the illusory space that trapped Chu Hen exploded like a burst bubble. A golden pillar of light shot into the sky once again, disappearing along with the cage of darkness and the violent Earth Bear King. Illusory space? Or was it real? This time, everyone was even more confused. Even Qi Zhang, Dan Zhen, Mu Feng, and the others were slightly stunned. No one dared to confirm whether the powerful attack on Helian-Zhong originated from an illusory technique or some other secret technique. Chaotic rain flew, and light patterns flew everywhere. Chu Hen stood in the sky, like a monarch that controlled the world. The aura he emitted gradually retracted, and his eyes had long returned to their original pitch-black luster. To outsiders, what happened just now was both real and fake. They could not see through it at all. Who knew that after Chu Hen found Helian-Zhong's hiding place, he immediately used the revolving myriad beast picture to summon a level 5 beast emperor, the violent Earth Bear King. After the successful attack, Chu Hen teleported his opponent back at lightning speed. The series of transformations could be said to be as smooth as flowing water. It was completed very smoothly. The battle was completed in an instant without anyone noticing. Even if it was over, no one could see through Chu Hen's methods. Under the tumbling rubble, in the huge crater, Helian-Zhong's clothes were tattered, and his body was covered in blood. He lay on the ground like a beggar. The violent Earth Bear King's full-strength palm strike had directly shattered many of his opponent's bones and meridians. His internal organs had also suffered varying degrees of damage. Lost. He really lost. There was no hope of turning the tables. Helian-Zhong trembled as he raised his head to look at the young figure standing proudly in the sky. His eyes were filled with a dense and complicated look. "I need one thing," Chu Hen said with an indifferent expression. Helian-Zhong's face showed a hint of surprise. That thing was stolen from the Seven Souls Nation back then. Stolen from the Seven Souls Nation? There was only one possibility. Astral Soul Pearl. Helian-Zhong's lips moved slightly. Then, he took out a storage ring with trembling hands and held it in his palm. Let go of the illusory rain sect's disciple," Helian-Zhong murmured softly, as if he was begging Chu Hen. Just as he finished speaking, Zhong raised his palm and used all the strength in his body to strike a broken mountain wall to the side. Boom! Rubble tumbled down. Rocks of all sizes directly smashed onto Zhong's body, instantly burying him in the ground. Sect Master. All the illusory rain sect's disciples' eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Every one of them was filled with deep sorrow. Looking at the scene before him, Chu Hen's eyes faintly trembled. He could not help but feel touched. It had to be said that Zhong was a person worthy of respect. In this way, he preserved the last shred of dignity of the illusory rain sect's sect master. Swoosh! Following that, a gentle white speck of light flew out from the stone crevice where Zhong was buried and landed on Chu Hen's palm. After so many years, he had finally obtained his second astral soul pearl. With Zhong's death, the last line of defense in the hearts of the illusory rain sect completely collapsed. The Shura sect and the otherworldly spirit sect also showed signs of irreversible defeat. At this moment, Flying Snow Palace and Lian Zhao were both anxious. Chapter 746. With Zhong's death, the illusory rain sect's last line of defense crumbled. The Heavenly Sword Pavilion, the General's Alliance, and the Thousand Cranes sect were unstoppable as they slaughtered their enemies and forced them to retreat. Seeing that the Cloud Luo Gorge was about to be breached, the Azura sect's sect master Lian Qi and the otherworldly spirit sect's sect master Shuigong's minds were in chaos. The two of them were both shocked and furious. It's time to end this. Mu Feng's eyes emitted a chilling glint as an endless baleful aura burst out from his body. He raised the Buddha demonic sword, and the demonic sword, which was emitting a dazzling blue light, slashed towards the Flying Snow Palace. Shui Fei Gong's expression changed, and he struck out several powerful palm energies in succession to meet the incoming attack. Bang! Sword and palm collided, sending shockwaves into the sky. The surging power was like two torrents colliding, causing space to violently tremble. Shui Gong was forced back by Mu Feng's attack. Buzz buzz! Immediately after, Mu Feng's figure moved and the demonic sword in his hand was raised once again. A peerlessly powerful sword aura was released from the Buddha demonic sword. It was like a huge chain as it swiftly wrapped around the sword pagoda that was emitting a desolate aura in the rear region. Mu Feng roared as the veins on his arm bulged. The powerful sword aura dragged the ancient pagoda and smashed it towards Shui Gong. The 1,000-meter-tall ancient pagoda was like a moving mountain as it tore through the sky. It exploded with a powerful force as it smashed towards Shui Gong. Shui Gong's face changed as he released the power of the 5th rank of the Earth Profound Realm without holding back. He pushed his palms forward and a torrent of shockwaves surged forward. Break! Hiss! Space trembled as the collision between mountains and tsunamis shook. A power comparable to that of a mountain and a tsunami immediately exploded high up in the sky, along with a raging wave of true essence. Under the astonished gazes of everyone present, the ancient sword pagoda actually burst apart, turning into endless blue light and shadows. The surging blue light was like an earth-shattering tide, covering heaven and earth. Just at this moment, Mu Feng suddenly charged into the blue light. He quickly brandished the Buddha demon's sword in his hand. In an instant, all of the blue light that filled the world gathered around Mu Feng. Then, they transformed into a vigorous cyclone that lingered around Mu Feng's body and rapidly rotated. Each of the blue cyclones was as powerful as the sharpest and most powerful energy swords. Thousands upon thousands of sword energies circling around Mu Feng were like a tornado that was expanding endlessly. They stirred up the world and tore the air apart as they charged toward Drifting Snow Palace. Spiral Sky Demon Slash. An unstoppable force whistled through the air. Before Snowflying Palace could even react, the powerful demonic whirlpool vortex had already arrived in front of him. The rapidly churning blue energy swords launched wave after wave of violent attacks. Drifting Snow Palace felt as if he was in the middle of a giant tornado. The powerful energy swords tore at his body from all directions. His genuine defenses were swiftly shattered, and the blue cyclones tore at his flesh and skin. The intense pain caused Drifting Snow Palace to let out an incomparably panicked roar. In an instant, Drifting Snow Palace was already covered in wounds, and scarlet blood spurted out from his body. Slash! Slash! Along with Mu Feng's explosive shout, a sword ray with an extremely powerful aura traversed the sky. It was as if it was a fleeting image of 1,000 years of time. Xue Fei Gong's pupils violently shrank, and an endless amount of fear instantly filled his entire face. Hiss! In the next instant, the peerlessly powerful sword ray pierced right through Drifting Snow Palace's body. His body was immediately torn to pieces, and his body exploded in the air. What? After Helianzhong, Drifting Snow Palace was once again killed on the spot. Everyone in the room felt a chill run down their spines. Sect leader, the few remaining survivors of the otherworldly spirit sect were so furious that their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Their faces were deathly pale from shock. Bang! True Yuan surged, and a blood-red light and a golden sacred radiance rippled in another part of the world. The two powerful figures retreated toward the back of the room. Qi Zhang, the sect leader of the Thousand Crane sect, had an imposing appearance as he stared coldly at the disheveled figure in front of him. Lian Xiao, you've already lost your momentum. Surrender. Surrender without a fight? Ridiculous. Lian Xiao's eyes were blood-red, and they were filled with deep hatred and resentment. Even if I die today, I'll drag someone down with me. Lian Xiao let out a fierce roar, and a monstrous blood qi erupted from his body like a mountain torrent. Rumble, a series of heavy noises rang out, and then, with Qi Zhang at the center, more than a dozen pillars of blood suddenly shot into the sky. Each of the blood pillars was more than 1,000 meters tall, and they exuded an aura that could pierce the heavens. Complicated and mysterious runes flickered on their surfaces. In just a second, the area where Qi Zhang was located was instantly reduced to the center of a violent storm. Exalted blood formation. Lian Zhao's aura soared into the heavens, and his violent aura made him seem like a fiend's. The dozen or so pillars of blood radiated red light, and an aura of death and destruction surged toward Qi Zhang. Humph, stubborn fool! Qi Zhang snorted coldly. Then, a dazzling holy light erupted from his body like the sun. The golden vertical eye at the center of his forehead flickered with sacred light. Buzz, buzz. As the space around Qi Zhang twisted and swayed, a rain of golden light and sacred light swirled around him. In the sky behind him, the world began to spiral, and then a giant vertical eye appeared before everyone's eyes. This vertical eye was 100 feet tall, like a blazing sun. Heaven Eye! Qi Zhang exclaimed. Whoosh! As soon as he spoke, the giant vertical eye behind him blossomed with boundless light, causing the sky to dim and the earth to be dyed gold. Whoosh! In a flash, Qi Zhang's eyes narrowed, and a condensed silver beam of light shot out from the vertical eye at the center of his forehead. The peerlessly powerful beam of light was like a divine aurora, sweeping up endless murderous intent as it shot through the air. Thump! There was a loud explosion as the light of the heaven eye pierced through one of the pillars of blood in front of him. A chaotic mist of red light scattered in all directions. The silver light of the heaven eye didn't slow down. After piercing through the blood pillar, it once more attacked Lian Xiao. What? Lian Xiao turned pale with fright. Her pupils, which had shrunk to the size of a needle tip, were filled with panic. The aurora arrived in the blink of an eye. In the next instant, the silver beam of light struck Lian Ku's chest like a sharp sword, penetrating his body and cutting through his front and back. Bang! Blood sprayed through the air, and dust filled the air. Chapter 747. Bang! A string of blood splattered through the air, an exceptionally glaring sight to behold. The light of Heaven's Eye that Qi Zhang had unleashed was like a divine sword that had descended from the heavens, piercing through Lian Zhao's chest. At this moment, the Azura sect members, who had been bitterly resisting, all stared with wide eyes. Their bodies and minds had received an unprecedented blow. How could this be? Lian Zhao's eyes widened as he stared at the expanding bloody hole in his chest. Endless disbelief appeared on his face. He had lost. He had lost to someone he had never wanted to lose to in his entire life. Boom! In the next instant, the dozen or so red blood pillars that surrounded Qi Zhang were shattered by a majestic and terrifying impact, and they exploded into chaotic balls of light that filled the sky. "It's over," Qi Zhang stared at Lian Xiao in front of him, his clothes fluttering in the wind as waves of energy surged around him. The deaths of Helian Zhong and Snowflying Palace had thrown Lian Zhao's mind into chaos, and the moment he lost his composure, it immediately announced his defeat. Lian Zhao's aura rapidly receded, rapidly weakening. He was like a bird with broken wings, fluttering in the air. He had lost. He had completely lost. It was a crushing defeat. From this day forth, the Azura sect, Illusory Rain sect, and Otherworldly Spirit sect would no longer exist in the entire province. Sects that had existed for nearly 1,000 years had fallen at this moment. 2 years ago, the 3 great sects had attacked Heavenly Sword Pavilion. 2 years later, Heavenly Sword Pavilion had returned. Truly, the 6 paths of reincarnation, who would the heavens spare, ah! Suddenly, Lian Zhao's eyes flashed with malevolence. He suddenly leaped into the air, pouncing at a young figure on the other side like a wild beast. "It's all your fault. I'm going to tear you into 1,000 pieces, you little bastard!" Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Lian Zhao's target was none other than Chu Hen. In his opinion, everything that had happened today was ruined by Chu Hen. It was his arrival that had directly led to the destruction of the 3 great sections. Lian Xiao was filled with hatred and resentment. What he needed to do now was to drag Chu Hen down with him before he died. However, Chu Hen's face was calm as he stood where he was. Within his indifferent gaze, there was not the slightest fluctuation of emotion. Roar! Just as Lian Xiao was less than 100 meters away from Chu Hen, a ferocious behemoth swooped down and pounced on Lian Xiao. The huge mouth full of sharp fangs opened and directly bit Lian Xiao. Lian Xiao turned pale with fright, roaring in anger and fear. No! Bang! Shi Yan's evil dragon beast's incomparably terrifying bite force completely vented on Lian Zhao's body. Bang! A dull explosion sound resounded. In a flash, scarlet blood rained down from Shi Yan's evil dragon beast's sharp teeth. Pieces of flesh splashed everywhere. Boom! The successive unforeseen events caused everyone present to feel as if they had been struck by lightning. Helian Zhong, Flying Snow Palace, and now Purgatory. The leaders of the 3 sects had all lost their lives in Cloud River Gorge. The tragic fate of Lian Ho had impacted everyone present. Roar! Standing in front of the domineering Shi Yan's evil dragon beast, the young figure seemed to be the king of this world. No one dared to challenge him. The huge beast danced up and down. Chu Hen stood proudly under the sky and waved his sleeve. Flatten the Shura sect, flatten the Shura sect. Boom! Kill! The earth quaked and the sky changed color. The General League, Thousand Crane sect, and Heavenly Sword Pavilion were like ferocious beasts that had broken through a dam. They directly broke through the huge barrier of Cloud River Gorge and attacked the Shura sect with unstoppable force. Roar! Roar! Screech! The scarlet flame tigers, armored earth dragons, tiger crocodiles, and other monstrous beasts quickly occupied the Shura sect's mountain gate. In the sky, the majestic giant Eagle Legion pierced through the sky, emitting a loud and clear might that shook the heavens. Kill! At this moment, the Shura sect, Illusory Rain sect, and Otherworldly Spirit sect were completely defeated. They had completely lost the ability to defend themselves. The Union of Generals didn't purposely slaughter the defeated soldiers, but there were still many who were trampled and killed by the demonic beast army. We surrender. But we beg for our lives. The situation was hopeless. There was no hope left. The disciples of the three sects stopped resisting and threw down the weapons in their hands. In the blink of an eye, the Shura sect's mountains and rivers were destroyed. The main peak was occupied, and the entire sect was filled with the troops of the General League, Heavenly Sword Pavilion, and Thousand Crane sect. With that, the curtains fell on the sect war. The three sects had achieved a complete victory. An hour later, the peak of the Shura sect's main peak was towering and steep. Standing there, one could see how small the surrounding mountains were. From today onward, the Shura sect, Illusory Rain sect, and Otherworldly Spirit sect will no longer exist in the Hundred Kingdoms prefecture. Chu Hen looked at the vast mountains and rivers in front of him. From afar, the Cloud River Gorge was still covered in blood from the fierce battle. Corpses littered the ground, and blood dyed the gorge red. The three sects had suffered countless casualties. In comparison, the forces of the General League, Heavenly Sword Pavilion, and Thousand Crane sect were in a much better state. Especially with the assistance of Hua Shui's spirit coalescing Saint Energy Art, their casualties had been reduced to a minimum. Besides Huan Ju, Xiao Rumen, and Cui Qi, Shui He and many other top geniuses of the past hadn't made an appearance during the sect war. They must have gone to the Eastern Victory Prefecture's Taiqing sect. I wonder how they'll feel when they learn of the destruction of the three sections. The Shura sect has finally been trampled underfoot. Qi Zhang seemed excited and emotional. The enmity between the Thousand Crane sect and the Shura sect that spanned hundreds of years had finally come to an end today. The one who had the last laugh was now standing here. "Thank you." Mu Feng turned around and spoke solemnly. Chu Hen faintly smiled, patted the other party's shoulder and said, "There's no need for such polite words between friends." Mu Feng nodded, and then he revealed a smile for the first time in 2 years. After that, he gazed at Haozi, who stood by Chu Hen's side. "Long time no see. You didn't even have the time to bid farewell to me when you left that day." "Yes." Haozi heaved a sigh of relief and shook his head with slight emotion. "I thought that I would be able to return to all of you very soon, but I never expected that I would be gone for 5 or 6 years." Only Chu Hen knew that Haozi had left with Thief Rat God. Mu Feng had only found out about it after he heard about it. Now, the mouse that was often bossed around by others had also become an existence that countless people in the 100 Nations continent looked up to. Mu Feng, that frivolous idiot, had also transformed into a sword devil. There was no doubt that no one had experienced more than Chu Hen over the years. From the change of the Sacred Star Dynasty to the rise of the General League today, it was true that the river flows east for 30 years, and then flows west for 30 years, roar. At this moment, a mighty wave of air rushed toward them. The Shur-Yen evil dragon spread its wings and flew toward them. Everyone was slightly startled. Then, the other party stretched its huge head toward Chu Hen and opened its huge mouth. A bright silver ball of light slid out from the gap between the Shur-Yen evil dragon's teeth. "This is a star soul pearl." Chu Hen's eyes lit up. He raised his hand and caught the bright ball of light. Inside the gorgeous ball of light there was a pattern of the Big Dipper. Without a doubt, it was a star soul pearl. It seemed that this star soul pearl had always been with Lian Kai. After the Shur-Yen evil dragon killed the other party, this star soul pearl also fell into the Shur-Yen evil dragon's mouth. Including the one he snatched from Helianzhong, Chu Hen now had 2 star soul pearls. Including his own Dubhe star soul pearl, he had a total of 3. As for the last one, it was probably hidden in the Otherworldly Spirit sect. He should be able to find it after this. Chapter 748. In the next 1 or 2 months, the entire 100 Kingdoms continent experienced an unprecedented upheaval. The news of the destruction of the Azura sect, Illusory Rain sect, and Otherworldly Spirit sect swept through the entire continent like a storm. The various factions and dynasties were shocked when they heard the news. The 3 sects were deeply rooted in the continent and had a long history. In the eyes of countless people, they were unshakable existences. Who would have thought that they would suffer such heavy losses in just a few days? Anyone who heard the news felt as if they had been struck by lightning. Soon, the General Alliance replaced all the territories under the otherworldly spirit sect. The Sky Sword Pavilion took over the resources of the Illusory Rain sect, and the Thousand Crane sect took over the Azura sect. In less than 2 months, the 3 major sects were divided by the 3 forces. From that day onwards, the 100 Nations continent welcomed the alliance of the General Alliance, the Thousand Crane sect, and the Sky Sword Pavilion. The alliance of these 3 factions was unshakable in the prefecture region. The General Alliance. In the capital, Chu-Hen, the Tianluo dynasty, Flame Shadow dynasty, and the Sword dynasty have sent a letter of alliance. The 3 sovereigns have expressed their willingness to join our General Alliance for all eternity. Su Yorong found Chu-Hen on top of the General Alliance's city wall and brought him this news. However, Chu-Hen only smiled faintly. He did not show much emotion. This matter was already within his expectations. To be honest, Chu-Hen did not think much of the choice of the 3 sovereigns. The reason they had been hesitant to make a decision was because they were worried that the 3 sects would one day eradicate the General Alliance. Now that the outcome was the opposite, they naturally sent someone to deliver the letter of alliance. Compared to the Misty Wind dynasty and the Boulder dynasty when the General Alliance was first established, these 2 sovereigns were more worthy of befriending. I understand. Sister-in-law, you can handle this matter yourself. There's no need to ask me. Su Yorong was more experienced than him in managing the internal and external affairs of the General Union, so Chu-Hen was at ease leaving this matter to her. Su Yorong nodded, then her eyes couldn't help but light up. Looking at the 4 silver spheres in Chu-Hen's palm, she said, Isn't this the 7 souls' ancient kingdom's treasure, the Star Soul Pearl? Sister-in-law, you have a good eye. Chu-Hen nodded with a smile. Have you collected all 4? Su Yorong could not help but feel a little astonished. As the overlord of the prefecture region in the past, everyone in the 7 spirits country knew about the 7 sacred artifacts, the Star Soul Pearl. During the battle at Cloud Luo Gorge, Chu-Hen had obtained the Fecta Star Soul Pearl from Helian Zhong and the Kai Yang Star Soul Pearl from Refiner Puppet. Later on, when he was raiding the otherworldly spirit sect, he found the Migres Star Soul Pearl. In addition to the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl in Chu-Hen's hands, he had obtained a total of 4. The remaining 3 were in the hands of the Heavenly Cloud Manor, the Immortal Pavilion, and the 7 Souls Palace. The Star Soul Pearl's power was accumulated by stacking them together. A single Star Soul Pearl's power was limited and not particularly strong. However, if several Star Soul Pearls were to be gathered together, then the power that would erupt forth would definitely be multiplied. This was the result of Chu-Hen's research. Refiner Puppet, Helian Zhong, and the Flying Snow Palace were most likely unaware of this matter. Otherwise, if they had used the power of 3 Star Soul Pearls to launch a joint attack, Chu-Hen might not have won so easily. Have you finished reorganizing the otherworldly spirit sect? Chu-Hen asked casually. Almost, Su Yorong replied. In the 100 Nations continent, there were many clans and forces that relied on the otherworldly spirit sect, the Shura sect, and the Illusory Rain sect to survive. Once the 3 sects were destroyed, the monkeys would scatter when the tree falls. Without a leader, many places would fall into chaos. In order to prevent the chaos from spreading, the Alliance of Generals worked together with the Celestial Sword Pavilion and the Thousand Crane sect to seize control of the resources of the sections. At the same time, they also took control of the cities in the regions. To put it simply, the otherworldly spirit sect had become a branch of the Alliance of Generals. Hearing Chu-Hen's question, Su Yorong guessed that he was most likely preparing to return to the victorious East Prefecture. In less than 2 months, the ancient desolate heaven region would open. Chu-Hen had to return to Mount Kunliu as soon as possible to make preparations. Most of the things that needed to be done were done. A few days ago, Chu Han made some time to pay a visit to the Luo clan in Grand Firmament City. He met with Luo Mengchang's adoptive father, Luo Qiong, and informed him that Luo Mengchang had found the mysterious person who sent her to the Luo clan back then. He was currently cultivating outside and would return to visit him in the future. Luo Qiong sighed deeply upon hearing this. While he was moved, he was also happy that Luo Mengchang had learned of her origins. Chu Han stayed in the Luo clan for a day. Before he left, he provided the Luo clan with a lot of pills, sage artifacts, sage armor, and other resources. It could be said that he was doing his filial duty to Luo Mengchang. As for Yi Yao, Chu Han also sent someone to the Yi clan to inform the head of the Yi clan that he already had news of Yi Yao's whereabouts. He told them not to worry and that he would find Yi Yao. Apart from that, Chu Han did not reveal any other information. After all, the fewer people who knew about Yi Yao and the Valley of Innocence, the better. His return this time could be considered to have completely resolved one of Chu Han's worries. The three major sects, which were a potential threat, had been eliminated. Now that the Alliance, the Heavenly Sword Pavilion, and the Thousand Crane sect had formed an alliance, they were definitely invincible in the prefecture. Even if Chu Han was far away in the victorious East Prefecture and had entered the ancient desolate heaven region, there was no need to worry. Alliance Master. At this moment, Qi Wanli hurriedly ran over and said, Sect Master Qi Zhang and Pavilion Master Mu Feng are here. Oh? Chu Han raised his eyebrows. I was just about to go and find them. They came at the right time. Then, Chu Han, Su Yorong, and Qi Wanli walked down the city gate tower and arrived at the guest hall in the front yard. In the hall, Qi Zhang, Mu Feng, Haozi, Hua Shui, and Shan Zhen were all there. When they saw Chu Han and the others, they all looked over. You guys came at the right time. I was just about to go and find you. Chu Han walked in and smiled. Mu Feng was slightly surprised. You're going back to Mount Kunliu, right? Qi Zhang immediately understood. Chu Han nodded. The ancient desolate heaven region is about to open. We have to go back and prepare as soon as possible. But, if the two of you are willing, you can come with me to Mount Kunliu. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was shocked. Qi Zhang subconsciously clenched his fists, and his eyes flashed with excitement. There was no one who did not desire the ancient desolate heaven region. It opened once every 1,000 years, and the ancient desolate heaven region was something everyone yearned for. But we're not from Mount Kunliu. I'm afraid it's not appropriate, Mu Feng said in a low voice. That's fine. Shan Zhen walked forward and raised her head slightly. She said in a clear voice, Chu Han and I have obtained the highest grade of Mount Kunliu, the Black Token. We have the authority to recruit disciples from outside Mount Kunliu. Everyone's eyes lit up. Previously, Chu Han completed a sum of 55 billion in the 100 Treasure Tower. The sect's contribution points directly reached 10 million points, and he also obtained the Black Token. As the highest grade Black Token, it had many privileges in Mount Kunliu. One of them was to recruit disciples from outside Mount Kunliu. Once one became a disciple of Mount Kunliu, he had the authority to enter the ancient desolate heaven region through the sect's channels. However, before that, I'd like to say something. Danjun glanced at Chu Han as her tone became more solemn. Although everyone wants to go to the ancient desolate heaven domain, it's not a good place. Opportunities and dangers exist side by side. I believe that the two of you should be clear on this point. Whether or not you want to go, please consider it carefully. The meaning of Danjun's words was very clear. Mount Kunliu could provide the quota. After entering the ancient desolate heaven region, life and death, fortune and danger would coexist. No one could guarantee that they would not encounter any unexpected situations. Moreover, it was unknown if they would even lose their lives. Therefore, Shan Zhen spoke her mind first. Chu Han nodded slightly, indicating that Shan Zhen was right. It was because there were many dangers in the ancient desolate heaven region that Chu Hen only considered Qi Zhang and Mu Feng. Otherwise, Chu Hen could choose a group of people from the alliance of generals to go together. However, after 8 months of fighting for the heaven and earth mystic yellow token, Chu Hen knew how complicated the situation in the Victory East province was. Even he did not have much confidence that he would be able to gain an advantage in the ancient desolate heaven region. There was no way he could lead the alliance of generals to search for opportunities. Only Mu Feng and Qi Zhang could make Chu Hen feel more at ease. "I'll go." Mu Feng agreed without hesitation. Qi Zhang also agreed without hesitation. "I'm willing to go as well." It could be seen that Qi Zhang yearned for the ancient desolate heaven region. Even though he was one of the most powerful figures in the 100 Kingdoms region, he knew that the Thousand Crane sect was nothing compared to the Victory East province. Qi Zhang had always yearned for an opportunity. Now, this opportunity was right in front of him. Even if he died in the ancient desolate heaven region, Qi Zhang would not regret it. His cultivation had been stuck at this level for many years, and if he wanted to break through again, he would have to ascend to a higher realm. As for Mu Feng, he had gotten his revenge, and the Sky Sword Pavilion had returned to its previous stability. As someone who possessed the Sword Demon Xian physique, how could he be willing to stay in such a small place? Chu Hen nodded his head. "That's good. Return to the Thousand Crane sect and Sky Sword Pavilion and report to them. I'll give the orders to the Alliance of Generals as well. The three powers will support each other, and we'll do our best to help each other no matter what happens." "Yes." Mu Feng and Qi Zhang nodded solemnly. Chapter 749. Heavenly Sword Pavilion. After 2 years of silence, the entire Sword Pavilion was once again filled with vitality. Many young male and female disciples were flying on their swords in the various cultivation grounds. They were either sparring or exchanging sword skills. Compared to when Mu Xiongcai was in charge of the Sword Pavilion, it was much livelier. After walking across the long bridge made of metal chains, Mu Feng arrived at a secluded mountain. The mountain was extremely quiet and there were not many people around. There was a tall tower built at the peak of the mountain. The tower was quite old and looked old and shabby. On the square outside the gate of the ancient pagoda, a hunchbacked, white-haired old man was sweeping the fallen leaves and dust on the ground. The old man's footsteps were unsteady and it was difficult for him to sweep the ground. He looked like a candle in the wind and was about to run out of oil. Hearing the approaching footsteps, the old man stopped what he was doing. He slowly raised his head and looked at Mu Feng, who was walking over. Many complicated emotions surged within his pair of turbid old eyes. "You look so old. If you can't sweep, then don't sweep. Can't you just sit still?" Mu Feng said indifferently. His voice was very calm. The old man did not speak and lowered his head to sweep the ground again. Mu Feng shrugged and smiled helplessly. "I'm going to the Eastern Victory Province. The ancient desolate heaven territory that only happens once every 1,000 years is about to open. I want to join in the fun." The old man paused for a moment but continued to do what he was doing. "You have to hold on until I come back. Don't die the moment I leave. I might be able to find a way to restore your youth in the ancient desolate heaven territory," Mu Feng said. The person in front of him was none other than the previous sect master of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion, Mu Feng's father, Mu Xiongcai. In the battle 2 years ago, Mu Xiongcai burned his origin of life and forcefully executed the Great Pagoda Devil Slaughtering technique in order to defend against the joint attack of the 3 sections. Everyone thought that Mu Xiongcai died in the battle, but that was not the case. However, even though Mu Xiong managed to preserve his life force was almost depleted, making him look like an old man in his twilight years. "I have taken care of all the matters in the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. During my absence, your illegitimate son, Jian Aonan, will temporarily take over the position of Pavilion Master, although I do not know if he is your illegitimate son or not. After saying that, Mu Feng turned around. From the corner of his eyes, he could not bear to look at the frail body of the other party, and softly said, "I'm leaving. Father, father." These two words had not come out of Mu Feng's mouth for many years. It was as if a stone had been thrown into the calm surface of the water, causing faint ripples to appear. Just as Mu Feng was about 10 steps away, the old but concerned voice came from behind. "Take care of yourself." In an instant, Mu Feng's body couldn't help but stop. His legs felt like they were filled with lead and were abnormally heavy. His eyes reddened and he clenched his fist. Then, he hurriedly left without looking back. Mu Xiong Kai watched as the other person disappeared at the end of the bridge. Under the ancient pagoda, the hunchbacked figure seemed even more frail. However, there was clearly a hint of concern and love in those muddy eyes. Mo City. According to the time that Chu Hen had agreed on, Mu Feng and Qi Zhang arrived at the Mo City Lord's residence to meet up with Chu Hen, Dan Zhen, and the others. "My lords, are you not going to stay in the city for a few more days? This old man will be able to welcome you all to my humble abode." City Lord Mo Ping was still the same as the day he arrived. He wanted to get closer to the others. Naturally, the answer he received was a refusal. Danjun had no time to bother with them. However, due to their enthusiasm, she rewarded them with a few more pills. Then, under the endless gratitude of the people in the Mo City Lord's residence, she activated the teleportation array and returned to Mount Kunli. Mount Kunli. The sky was high and the clouds were light. The majestic mountain peak pierced through the clouds, looking like a divine pillar that supported the heavens. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth, which was many times denser than that of the 100 kingdoms, lingered around the mountain range. It was like a golden spiritual fog, beautiful like a painting, like a dangerous place. Is this Mount Kunliu? It really lives up to its reputation. Qi Zhang gazed at the beautiful scenery in the distance with a look of awe on his face. Mu Feng's eyes were also filled with amazement. The power of this Mount Kunliu was majestic, far beyond that of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Looking at the majestic mountain gate, one could not help but feel a sense of disparity. Danjun smiled and said, "Later, let Hua Shui and the others take you around to familiarize you with the environment of Mount Kunliu." "No problem," Hua Shui agreed readily. Chu Hen smiled and shook his head. This girl was really enthusiastic. He then asked, "Senior Brother Dan, do you need to inform the Fairy Hall Master about this?" "Leave it to me." Danjun raised her head and answered, "Okay. Thank you." "You're welcome." Shortly after, everyone returned to their residences. Danjun also arranged a place for Mu Feng and Qi Zhang to stay. It was next to Chu Hen and Haozi's residences in the West Wing. Chu Hen, Haozi, Qi Ting, and Lu Qi were no different from the other disciples of Mount Kunli. Chu Hen could request to have his own independent mountain to stay in. However, the ancient desolate heaven region was about to open, so it did not matter where he stayed. It was fine to stay in the guest house temporarily. "So many things have happened to you in the past 2 years. Sitting in the hall, Mu Feng looked at Chu Hen and said meaningfully, "Yes." Chu Hen let out a long breath. "But it is not easy to be the sect master of Mount Kunliu." Mu Feng laughed. Mount Kunliu was so big, it was easy to imagine how difficult it was to be the sect master. Even so, Chu Hen's ability was still admirable. After chatting for a while, they returned to their rooms to rest. Chu Hen, who was sitting on the bed, felt much more relaxed. He had almost finished all the things he needed to do after returning to the 100 Kingdoms state. Now, he could devote himself to preparing for the ancient desolate heaven region. Phew, after Chu Hen let out a deep breath, he moved his palm and took out an exquisite transparent glass bottle. Within the small bottle, there was a trickle of golden spiritual liquid. Tree soul heaven nourishing liquid. This was what Hua Shui had snatched from 8th Elder when they were buying elixirs. It was a natural treasure that had the main effect on the street tree Reiki energy. Chapter 750. As the gate of the ancient desolation heaven realm was about to open, Mount Kunliu and even the entire Dongxing province were stirred up. Experts from various sects, forces, and clans were all preparing for the trip to the ancient desolation heaven realm. Under the expectations of the crowd, this day arrived as promised. Boom! Many disciples of Mount Kunliu had already gathered on the flying immortal peak before the sky was completely bright, accompanied by a bustling and majestic atmosphere of jubilation. Almost all of their faces were surging with unconcealable fervor and hope. Ancient desolation heaven realm. Gluttony feast. West guesthouse. Suddenly, an especially vigorous spiritual power surged out from a certain room. The expressions of Mu Feng, Haozi, Shan Zhen and the others, who were waiting outside the guest courtyard, changed slightly. Each and every one of them revealed astonished expressions. What a powerful Reiki energy! Qi Zhang, the master of Thousand Crane sect, raised his eyebrows and said in surprise. It seems that he has reached the later stage of spiritual tattooist. This guy really doesn't want to leave anything behind. Dan Jin nodded with a smile. You have to thank me, Hua Shui said in a hurry to take credit. She snatched the tree soul heaven nourishing liquid from the eighth elder. If it wasn't for Hua Shui, Chu Hen wouldn't have known that there was such a thing in the world. Compared to Chu Hen's martial arts realm, the Reiki energy needed to be strengthened. Very quickly, the powerful aura coming from the other side gradually retracted. Then, the door that had been closed for more than a month opened, and a high-spirited young man with an extraordinary bearing walked out. His handsome face exuded an aura that made people look up to him. Looking at the crowd outside, Chu Hen smiled. Let's go. After a while, Chu Hen, Mu Feng, Dan Zhen, and the others arrived at the fairy peak. At this moment, the entire flying immortal peak was filled with people. Many disciples of the Kunliu Gate had gathered on the plaza of the flying immortal peak. Seeing Chu Hen and the others arrive, everyone looked at them strangely. On the other hand, Nangong Hao of the Demon Slayer Palace and Lung Lingyan of the Void Palace had a hint of indifference in their eyes. Do you have a grudge against that guy? Mu Feng pointed at Nangong Ju and said casually, the moment he saw you, his hostility rose. Chu Hen smiled but didn't say anything. He just shook his head and didn't say anything. However, he was still a little surprised by Mu Feng's perception ability. After awakening the sword demon mystic body, Mu Feng's strength in all aspects had been perfected and strengthened. Buzz! At this moment, 3 dazzling silver light pillars descended from the sky like lightning, steadily landing on the stone platform in the middle of the square. A circle of surging airwaves spread out in all directions like a tide. Everyone on the square retreated without exception. Soon after, the 3 pillars of light quickly converged downwards and turned into 3 powerful figures with extraordinary auras and majestic auras. Greetings, 3 palace masters. Everyone present bowed and saluted with reverence on their faces. Forget it. The Demon Slayer Palace Master, Wen Liang, waved his hand. His voice was like thunder, powerful and resonant. Thank you, Palace Master. The Palace Master of the Flying Immortal Temple, Qi Hanyu, subconsciously glanced at where Chu Hen and the others were. When she saw Mu Feng and Qi Zhang beside Chu Hen, she couldn't help but show a hint of surprise on her face. Previously, Dan Zhen had already reported to her that Chu Hen had recruited 2 outsiders from the 100 Kingdoms Prefecture to enter the Kunliu Mountain. At that time, she didn't pay much attention to it. Now that she saw it, Mu Feng and Qi Zhang were 2 talent. This was especially true for Mu Feng. The aura that was faintly emitted from his body caused Qi Hanyu to feel a slight chill. What a powerful profound physique bloodline limit. Qi Hanyu murmured in her heart. This kid's future achievements definitely wouldn't be too low. This trip to the ancient desolate heaven domain will be led by me and the palace master of the flying immortal temple. A thunderous voice echoed from the palace master of the flying immortal temple, Wen Liang. The moment he said that, the entire square couldn't help but burst into an uproar. For two palace masters to personally lead the team, this was really a big move. Even Chu Hen was surprised. He originally thought that only one palace master would lead the team. He didn't expect two palace masters to lead the team. One could imagine how much importance they placed on the ancient desolate heaven domain. With Wen Liang and Qi Hanyu leading the team, this meant that the palace master of the Void Palace, Xie Wuhe, would stay in the sect. Xie Wuhe's expression looked very calm, without much fluctuation. It seemed that the three of them had already gone through a strict discussion. The three palace masters were actually very clear that the ancient desolate heaven domain was filled with opportunities and dangers. Not many people could say that they would be able to come and go as they pleased in the ancient desolate heaven domain. Apart from their own desire for the ancient desolation heaven domain, the two palace masters were also here to ensure the safety of the genius disciples. According to their original plan, it wasn't impossible for the three palace masters to come together. But on second thought, if they didn't leave a hall master here to hold down the fort, if their enemies were to take advantage of this time to attack the mountain gate, their nest would probably be destroyed. Since ancient times, the victorious East State didn't lack such precedent. Of course, there was another point. If an unimaginable accident happened to the team heading to the ancient desolate heaven domain, then the palace master of the Void Palace would be in charge. At that time, Xie Wuhe would be the palace master of Mount Kuan-Lu. Other than the palace master of the Void Palace staying in Mount Kuan-Lu, not all the disciples could head to the ancient desolate heaven domain. Although a complete set of 4 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens could allow the entire sect to enter the heaven domain, those with weak cultivation would only be a burden if they entered the heaven domain. After a few months of selection, Mount Kuan-Lu finally selected over 1,000 elite disciples to form the strongest team, the Kuan-Lu team, to head to the ancient desolate heaven domain. "Is there anything you want to say?" Qi Hanyu turned around and looked at Xie Wuhe. Xie Wuhe smiled faintly and replied without any hesitation, "I hope that all the juniors will return. As for the two of you, forget it." "Humph." Wen Liang snorted coldly. "Your wishful thinking is really good. Once the two of us die, Mount Kuan-Lu will be yours." "That's right. That's exactly what I wanted." "Ha ha ha ha." Xie Wuhe laughed. Qi Hanyu smiled and shook her head. There was a complicated look in her eyes as she said softly, "Xie Wuhe, if I really can't return, please help me find Gong Yangyu." Qi Hanyu's words caused the surrounding to fall into silence. "I don't have the time to help you find him. If you want to find him, come back and find him yourself." Xie Wuhe looked away as a disdainful sneer appeared on his face. "All right, let's cut the nonsense." The Devil Slaughter Palace Master seemed to be in high spirit. He waved his hand and shouted, "The ancient desolate heaven domain is about to open. The 1,000 disciples from Mount Kuan-Lu, please follow us. Mount Qinqing, depart. Mount Qinqing, rumble." In an instant, the entire Mount Kuan-Lu was filled with a mighty aura. Over 1,000 elite disciples from Mount Kuan-Lu soared into the sky and revealed their powerful auras. Roar! Subsequently, a few majestic one-horned Pegasi galloped from the back of the flying celestial peak. These Pegasi were pulling 2 luxurious open carriages. The flying celestial palace master and the Devil Slaughter Palace master turned into a ray of light and soared into the sky. They landed on the 2 carriages and sat on the wide chairs. "Let's go." Soon after, the 2 hall masters gathered the strongest youths of Mount Kunliu and headed towards the direction of Mount Qinqing in a grandiose manner. "I'm looking forward to it." Chu Hen raised his brows as his eyes burned with passion. Mu Feng, Haozi, Qi Zhang, Shan Zhen, Hua Shui and the rest were also extremely excited. Now that they had made it to the ancient desolate heaven domain, it was easy to imagine how excited they were. "Let's go." Without much hesitation, the group flew into the sky and followed the huge group. Numerous swift and fierce figures streaked across the sky like incomparably sharp eagles. They blotted out the sky and covered the sun with an imposing manner that could topple mountains and overturn the seas. As for the disciples from Mount Kuan Lu, who were not fated to participate in the trip to the ancient desolate heaven domain, their eyes were filled with envy. The world had never been fair. Only strength could prove everything. Looking at the group that had turned into black dots in the sky, the Void Palace Master Xie Wuhe placed his hands behind his back. His dignified eyes were filled with complicated emotions. Ancient desolate heaven domain, Prefecture Region War, Gathering of Heroes, 9 Heavens Dragon Roar. Chapter 751. Qingqing Mountain. Qingqing Mountain was beautiful and enshrouded in spiritual mist. The undulating mountain range was like an ancient dragon in slumber. At this moment, the Qingqing Mountain was already crowded with people. The teams from various sects and forces were occupying a mountain peak. They were gathered here for no reason other than to wait for the door to the ancient desolation heaven domain to open. I've been waiting for this day. I'm so excited. What are you so excited for? With your cultivation base, you probably won't be able to return from the ancient desolation heaven domain. Screw you. Do you know how to talk? Who knows if I'll be lucky and discover a secret realm by accident. From then on, I'll be able to make a comeback. You won't get such a good opportunity. Although the atmosphere in the Qingqing Mountain was lively, the teams from the various sects did not bother with each other. They were only interacting with their own people. Not only that, but there seemed to be a sense of hostility between the various sects and clans. After all, once they entered the ancient desolation heaven domain, almost all the sects and clans would be competitors. Whoosh! Suddenly, a powerful wave of air swept in their direction. Everyone was slightly shocked as they raised their heads to look at the sky. They saw a few single-horned Pegasi that emitted a holy aura pulling 2 luxuriously dressed carriages. When the crowd clearly saw the 2 people in the carriage, they could not help but reveal some amazement on their faces. It's the Flying Celestial Palace Master and the Devil Slaughter Palace Master from Mount Kunliu. Mount Kunliu actually sent out 2 Hall Masters. What a surprise. It's normal. I'd think it's normal even if all 3 Palace Masters came. The ancient desolation heaven domain is so tempting. In fact, many sects have sent out their full strength. You're right. It seems like Mount Kunliu is being conservative. Whoosh! Amidst the clamorous discussions, the team from Mount Kunliu landed on a relatively empty mountain peak. Similar to the other sects, Mount Kunliu did not greet or interact with any of the forces after they arrived. The other forces in the surroundings did not make any moves as well. They merely glanced around and did not do anything. There are so many people here. Hua Shui scanned her surroundings. As far as her eyes could see, the mountains were filled with people. Moreover, there were many people with powerful auras hidden within this endless crowd. Chu Hen could even vaguely sense that there were a few people whose auras were no weaker than Qi Hanyu and Wen Liang, the 2 Hall Masters. It had to be said that the victorious East region was truly a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. For example, the sect master of the Thousand Crane sect, Qi Zhang. He was a top-rate expert in the 100 Kingdoms, yet he was no different than a passerby when he stood amongst the group from Mount Kunliu. The difference between them was like heaven and earth. Do all the sects in the victorious East State head to the ancient desolate heaven domain from here? It was Mu Feng who asked. No. Shan Jin shook her head and explained in a low voice, Qingqing Mountain is only one of the gates that have been opened. There are other passageways that have been opened in the other regions of the Dongxing State. Mu Feng nodded. After all, it was his first time in the victorious East State, so he did not know much about the geography of the region. The sects and forces in the victorious East State were divided according to their regions. At that time, the passageways that led to the ancient desolate heaven domain opened at the same time, and everyone was sent in together. Mount Kunliu was in the region where Qingqing Mountain was located. Where are Innocence Valley and Taiching Sect? Chu Hen asked Shanzhen in a low voice. Innocence Valley, where Yi Yao was the thing that Chu Hen was most worried about. It was also the most important task that he had to shoulder after entering the ancient desolate heaven domain. As for Taiqing sect, Mentor Shilan and the top geniuses of the 100 Kingdoms were all recruited there. If things went well, it would be a fortuitous encounter. If things went badly, they would become Taiqing sect's cannon fodder. Especially since both Innocence Valley and Taiqing sect were among the top 10 forces in the victorious East State. If he wanted to deal with these two forces and sects, he would have to make all sorts of preparations. First of all, he had to find out where the two sects were. Naturally, Shanzhen knew what Chu Hen was thinking. She looked around without batting an eyelid. Then, she shook her head and answered in a low voice, "They're not here. None of them are here. Honesty Valley is in the southwest of the province, so they should be in Flag Cloud City right now. Taiqing sect is in the southeast, near returning Eagle Gorge." After listening to her, Chu Hen could not help but shake his head. He had never even heard of these two places. As it turned out, his understanding of the victorious East State was only vague. "Don't be too anxious. Let's wait until we reach the ancient desolate heaven domain," Shanzhen said. "All right." Chu Hen heaved a sigh of relief. Now that it had come to this, he could only take one step at a time. He only hoped that Yi Yao could try her best to delay Shantu Tian until Chu Hen met up with her. As time passed, the number of teams that arrived at Qingqing Mountain increased. Apart from the people from the major sects and clans, there were also many people from all walks of life. They were actually fighting for the heaven and earth black-yellow tokens in the surrounding areas. The various forces only looked on coldly from the sidelines at such a scene that was neither big nor small. At a time like this, the only ones who were anxious were those who hadn't obtained the pass. Rumble! Suddenly, a thunderous might that shook the heavens exploded in the sky above Qingqing Mountain without any warning. In the next moment, the wind howled in all directions, and the sky darkened in an instant. Endless dark clouds covered the sky and covered the earth, covering the sky above Mount Qingqing. They slowly rotated and turned into an incomparably vast and mighty storm nebula. A powerful and terrifying aura gathered above everyone's heads, suppressing them to the point that they could hardly breathe. The storm nebula continued to expand in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it had expanded to thousands of feet wide. Subsequently, a myriad of golden rays of light blossomed from the center of the nebula vortex. It was as if a dazzling sun had spilled out from within it. Countless rays of dazzling divine golden light dyed the sky and illuminated the faces of everyone below, causing them to sparkle brilliantly under the scorching gazes of countless people. An incomparably huge scene gradually appeared in the sky. The magnificent scene was like a mirage. The world lost its color as if a miracle had descended. What appeared in front of everyone was a huge heaven-opening gate. The circular gate was covered in complicated and mysterious ancient numbers. The runes and numbers engraved on them were like interweaving silver vines of light, flickering with bright and mysterious patterns. This scene had happened a year ago as well. However, at this moment, everyone felt that it was extremely real. The dazzling gate was like a heavenly wheel that floated in the sky. When it opened, the ancient desolate heaven territory would be reopened. The ancient desolate heaven territory is finally here. At this moment, everyone stood up and clenched their fists tightly. Their expressions were all moved. Even the head of the Flying Immortal Palace, Qi Hanyu, and the head of the Demon-Slaying Palace, Wen Liang, could not help but stand up from the wide seats in the carriage. The two of them stared at the gate. They had been waiting for this day for a long time. Immediately after, the huge golden door that looked like a divine formation slowly rotated clockwise. The mysterious runes on it quickly lit up, releasing bright and beautiful light patterns. The world spun and the sky was stirred. The gate to the ancient desolate heaven territory is about to open. This is great. After waiting for so many years, This moment has finally arrived. Excitement. Unprecedented excitement. Everyone's eyes seemed to be flickering with flames. They were so excited that their blood was boiling and their hearts were about to jump out of their bodies. Very soon, under countless excited gazes, the giant golden door slowly opened from the middle as it rotated, splitting into two. The way the golden gate opened was very strange. The middle of the gate was not vertical like normal gate. Instead, there was a lock at the top, bottom, left, and right. The two gates separated and the gate to the ancient desolate heaven territory opened. Along with the divine golden light, an ancient and desolate aura that seemed to have been sealed for countless years rushed out from the gap of the gate towards the people below. 10,000 rays of golden light poured down, and everyone in the Qingqing mountain felt as if they were bathed in the holy light. Swish, swish. Following that, dozens of figures with extraordinary auras flew out from behind the giant golden door. The aura released by these people was like an unshakable mountain. These people were all wearing sacred armor that flowed with silver light and held long spears in their hands. A few of them were even wearing golden sacred armor. They were majestic and their auras were astonishing. They were like the legendary heavenly soldiers that guarded the heavenly palaces. Chapter 752. What's that? Looking at the dozens of powerful figures that flew out from behind the huge golden door, the faces of the various factions on Qingqing Mountain below revealed a lot of caution and faint reverence. These people were all wearing colorful sacred armors and holding long spears that were surrounded by powerful light runes. His grave and stern face, his sharp gaze, and the awe-inspiring aura he exuded were like the legendary heavenly soldiers and generals. Who are they? In the group on Kunlu Mountain, Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly. He could not help but clench his fist. He suddenly recalled the scene a few months ago when he met Tuoba Shah and was chased by a powerful man in golden sacred armor. The aura of these people was very similar to the ones he met back then. They're the guardians of the ancient desolation heaven region, the Light Sacred Clan. Danjan's voice rang in Chu Hen's ears. Heavenly Region Guardian? Light Sacred Clan? Chu Hen's heart involuntarily surged with a few simple words. The Sacred Clan. Just these two words were enough to make people revere them from the bottom of their hearts. Sacred Clan? Does their race inherit the bloodline limit of the sacred body? Mu Feng asked subconsciously. Danjun nodded solemnly. A hint of reverence and passion faintly surged between her brows. That's right. The Light Sacred Clan is one of the most ancient clans in the Eastern continent. They're also the inheritors of the Saint bloodline limit. Danjun's explanation was very vague. It was obvious that he did not know much about the so-called Heavenly Region Guardian. However, from his words, it was obvious that he was afraid of the Light Sacred Clan. The expression on Chu Hen's face became even more complicated and grim. If the people who took Tuoba Shah away were really from the Light Sacred Clan, then it would be really bad. At the same time, Chu Hen could not help but feel confused about the mysterious item in the metal box that Tuoba Shah had given him. What exactly was hidden in it? What would cause the Light Sacred Clan to attack Tuoba Shah? Sorry for the long wait. A slightly indifferent and calm voice came from the golden-armored middle-aged man in the lead. His indifferent tone did not reveal any emotion, and his eyes were as calm as the water in an ancient well. My name is Luoting. I'm the person in charge of Azure City Mountain's Heavenly Territory Passage. I believe everyone has been waiting for this day for a long time. Hua, it was a simple sentence, but it was like a stone thrown into the water, causing ripples in everyone's hearts. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion. Seeing the changes in everyone's expressions, a frivolous smile rose from the corner of Luoting's mouth as he continued, "Looks like everyone is a little impatient. That's right, the ancient desolate heaven domain has a power that all of you yearn for. As the protector of the ancient desolate heaven domain, I have to tell you that once you enter, none of you will be restricted. There wouldn't be any restrictions. This also meant that the various sects and families could do whatever they wanted in the ancient, desolate heaven domain. I won't waste any more words. Everyone knows the rules. Let's begin. Buzz, buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, a strong spatial fluctuation appeared in the sky. The giant golden door released countless rays of gentle golden light. From afar, the giant door looked like a long and deep path leading to the heavens. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Following that, a team from a sect on a mountain soared into the sky. The size of this team was not any smaller than the team from Mount Koanlu. Moreover, the aura that the person in the lead emitted was not any weaker than the two palace masters from Mount Koanlu. Renjun from the Soaring Clouds Pavilion greets Lord Luoting. A middle-aged man who looked like he was in his 40s cupped his fists at Luoting and presented 4 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens with both hands. Luoting moved his palm and casually took the 4 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens into his hand. However, he merely glanced at them briefly. Pavilion Master Renjun, how many people from the Soaring Clouds Pavilion are here? 1,200 people. The middle-aged man answered without hesitation. Is that so? Are you sure? I'm sure. Luoting smiled and raised his eyelids. However, it seems like you have more than 1,200 people here. What? Everyone's heart skipped a beat. However, in the next instant, with a swoosh sound, along with a rapid wind-breaking momentum, a shadow of flowing light suddenly burst out from the Soaring Clouds Pavilion's team. I don't believe that I can't go to the ancient desolate heaven domain without a heaven and earth black-yellow token. The person was extremely fast. He left a series of afterimages in the sky as he charged towards the gate of the ancient desolate heaven domain like a ghost. However, when the person was less than 50 meters away from the giant golden door, a silver light shot across the sky and struck the person's body like a meteor. Bang! A heavy muffled sound erupted in the sky as a powerful chi wave spread out in the sky, causing a rain of blood to splatter. Ah! A short and hurried miserable shriek caused one's heart to tremble violently. That person's body directly shattered and exploded into a bloody mist. At the place where the person died, a guard in silver armor held a spear. His cold face gave off a dangerous aura. In the blink of an eye, blood was shed. In an instant, the expressions of the people from the Soaring Clouds Pavilion changed drastically. Pavilion Master Renjun's face turned pale as he hurriedly said, "Lord Luoting, please calm down. We were careless. Please forgive us." Luoting continued to smile. He looked at the people from the various sects and said, "Looks like I have to repeat myself. No one is allowed to use the heaven and earth black-yellow token as a pass. All sects are aware of their subordinate. If anyone tries to pass them off as genuine, the entire sect will be disqualified." Hiss! Although Luoting was smiling when he said this, everyone in the room felt a chill run down their spines. Immediately, the teams from the various forces and clans began to count the number of people in their sects in case someone with ill intentions mixed in with them. Their way of doing things was really swift and decisive. Seeing this, Chu Hen could not help but shake his head. The Light Sacred Clan was one of the most powerful clans in the Eastern Land. Indeed, they would not allow anyone to challenge their dignity. However, seeing that Luoting did not blame the Soaring Clouds Pavilion immediately, the people from the Pavilion Master Renjun heaved a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Lord Luoting. Let's go in." Luoting raised his hand slightly and made a gentle gesture of please. Renjun's eyes lit up. After nodding and bowing, he took the lead and turned into a stream of light as he flew toward the giant golden door. The people from the Soaring Clouds Pavilion followed closely behind and flew toward the passage to the ancient desolation heaven domain like a flock of eagles. Buzz! Countless rays of dazzling golden light shone from behind the giant golden door. The people from the Soaring Clouds Pavilion seemed to have merged with the holy light of the divine sun. In an instant, they turned into black spots and disappeared from everyone's sight. Chapter 753. In the sky above the 9 heavens the wind swirled around the clouds. The holy light emitted from the giant golden door was like the sun in the sky. The dazzling light inscriptions bathed the entire Qingqing mountain in holy light. Under the passionate and excited gazes of the people from the various sects and forces, the Soaring Clouds Pavilion's team was the first to pass through the endless path behind the golden formation door and enter the ancient desolation heaven territory. The Light St. Clan's team was like the divine guards guarding the entrance of the heaven palace. They emitted a powerful aura that struck fear in the hearts of the people. Luo Ting looked at the people below and spoke in a light tone. Next, whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, another team of more than 1,000 people soared into the sky, sweeping up a vast and mighty aura that surged into the sky. Lung Song from the Heavenly Sea sect greets everyone. Just like before, the leader of the team eagerly took out 4 heaven and earth black-yellow tokens and handed them to Luo Ting. Luo Ting took them and asked, "Sect leader Lung, how many people from the Heavenly Sea sect are here?" Lung Song was stunned. The disciples behind him were also shocked. They looked at each other and their surroundings. When they saw no strangers had mixed into the team, Lung Song finally replied in a relaxed tone. 1,350 people. Luo Ting smiled. "Don't be nervous, sect leader Lung. I just want to make sure." Lung Song wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and cursed inwardly. "Damn it, how can I not be nervous? We might die if we're not careful. Please." Luo Ting raised his hand with a smile. Ling Song nodded and cupped his fists. Then, he waved his hand and said, "Let's go." Whoosh, whoosh. Subsequently, the Heavenly Sea Sects team followed the Soaring Clouds Pavilion's team into the Golden Formation door and disappeared in the dazzling holy light. Soon after, powerful teams with extraordinary auras rose into the sky and handed over their heaven and earth black-yellow tokens in an orderly manner. After that, Luo Ting did not ask about the number of people. But even so, every sect and family would conduct a strict and thorough investigation before this to ensure that no one would come to make up the numbers. As the guardians of the ancient desolation heaven territory, everyone was in awe of the Light Saint clan. As time went by, the number of people in Mount Qingqing decreased at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, many lone travelers who held heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens were also making their final preparations. Almost there. In front of the Mount Kunlu group, Demon Slaughter Palace Master Wen Liang raised his cold eyes and glanced at the people behind him. "Count the number of people and see if there are any strangers mixed in." "Yes, Hall Master." Everyone agreed and scanned their surroundings to see if there were any strangers they did not know. Of course, with Mount Kunlia's prestige in the Dongxing region, no one would dare to mix in with this group. The only unfamiliar ones were the 2 new members, Mu Feng and Qi Zhang. "Palace Lord, the number of people is just right," a middle-aged man with the rank of an elder said with certainty. Wen Liang nodded. He immediately exchanged glances with Qi Hanyu, the master of the Flying Celestial Hall, and the 2 of them took the lead to fly up on their magnificent carriages. Everyone from Mount Kunliu followed closely behind. The mighty team released a powerful aura that suppressed everyone present. As expected of the team from Mount Kunliu, their aura is so King strong. To be honest, if that sect leader Gong Yang Yu didn't leave, Mount Kunlia's strength could easily be ranked in the top 10 in the Dongxing region. In fact, they're not far from the top 10. While the people from the various sects discussed below, the people from Mount Kunliu arrived at the area below the Door of Apocalypse. Mount Kunliu? Haha. As far as I know, that Gong Yang Yu is considered an important person in the Dongxing region. Luo Ting held his chin with one hand and muttered to himself. "This is our pass." Qi Hanyu, the master of the Flying Celestial Hall, flipped her hand and flicked her slender fingers. 4 heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens floated towards Luo Ting like feathers. Luo Ting casually took the heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens and said, "It seems that the rumored Gong Yang Yu isn't here. I wonder where he is? I, Luo Ting, would like to meet him." The people from Mount Kunliu were stunned. Qi Han Yu and Wen Liang looked at each other. The latter cupped his fists and said, "Sect leader Gong Yang is traveling and hasn't returned yet." "Oh? He's not in Mount Kunliu?" Luo Ting was slightly surprised. This person didn't know that sect leader Gong Yang had already left the Dongxing region? Chu Hen, who was in the team, was slightly confused. It seemed like there wasn't a force in the Dongxing region that didn't know about this, right? However, Chu Hen quickly understood. The reason was simple. The Light Sacred Tribe was one of the most ancient and powerful races in the East Continent, but they weren't a force in the Dongxing region. The Light Sacred Tribe wouldn't bother to ask about what happened here. Or rather, they disdained to ask about it. The East Continent was as vast as the Sea of Stars. The Dongxing region was just one of the places that the Light Sacred Tribe had touched. However, it had to be said that Gong Yang Yu, who was known to the Light Sacred Tribe, was not an ordinary person. "Please." Luo Ting didn't say much after knowing that Gong Yang Yu wasn't in Mount Kunli. "Thank you." Wen Liang cupped his fists in acknowledgement. Then, he and Qi Han Yu took the lead and led the people from Mount Kunliu towards the giant golden door. This day had finally come. This was the thought that everyone from Mount Kunliu had in mind. Nangong Hao, Lung Lingyan, Shan Zhen, Mu Feng, Qi Zhang, as well as Chu Han and the others, were all filled with fervent excitement. The giant awakened heaven gate that spanned thousands of feet was like a god that shrouded the sky above everyone's heads. The sacred radiance that shone down from within was dazzling. Everyone charged into the thousands of light beams and became one with the light behind the giant gate. In the next instant, when he entered the light, Chu Han only felt the sky and earth spin. An extremely strong pulling force was currently pulling his body, as if he was drawn into a storm whirlpool. However, this feeling made him feel incomparably relaxed, without the slightest bit of nervousness. Roar! Suddenly, at this moment, a deafening roar of a ferocious beast resounded in the sky above Mount Qinqing. In the next moment, a giant beast with a wingspan of more than 1,000 meters came piercing through the wind and clouds. This was a ferocious beast with a head that resembled the legendary Qilin. However, the difference was that this giant beast had an extra pair of wings, and its shape was closer to that of a horse, handsome Qilin beast. A level 9 beast emperor was a terrifying existence comparable to a level 9 profound world realm expert. Chapter 754. Roar! The sudden appearance of the Qilin beast set off a strong gust of wind and qi waves. The people around Qinqing Mountain were shocked by the sudden appearance of the Qilin beast. "It's a handsome Qilin beast?" "Hiss! A 9th order beast emperor. This is the first time I've seen a demonic beast of this level." Roar! Under the gazes of the crowd that were filled with bewilderment, the Qilin beast traversed the sky with an imposing aura that shot into the heavens, and its vast ferocious might that could topple mountains and overturn the seas dragged out an expanse of powerful ripples in the sky. Like an aurora, it rushed towards the giant golden door in the sky. Buzz! At the same time, the Golden Gate released a dazzling radiance that swept everyone from Mount Kunlu's team into it, instantly disappearing without a trace. As soon as the people from Mount Kunlia left, the brave Qilin beast also stopped moving. It circled around the area below the giant golden door like a falcon that had lost its target. It let out a low growl, showing that it was unwilling to give up. At this moment, not only were the people from the major forces at the foot of Qinqing Mountain exchanging glances, but even Luo Ting and the dozens of Holy Guard experts from the Light Sacred clan were confused. "What's wrong with this beast now?" Luo Ting frowned and said unhappily. At this moment, a silver-armored Saint Guard flew up and whispered to Luo Ting, "My lord, this handsome Qilin beast went on a top-secret mission with Lord Songli a few months ago." "Top-secret mission?" Luo Ting narrowed his eyes and asked curiously, What top-secret mission? Haha, sir, you're making things difficult for me. What top-secret mission? How would I have the right to know? However, I heard that the higher-ups weren't satisfied with the mission Lord Song carried out. He was even punished for it. The silver-armored Holy Guard said mysteriously. Upon hearing this, Luo Ting was even more surprised. Even Song Li had not completed that task? This was truly unexpected to him. Luo Ting knew very well how strong Song Li was. If even he failed, it could be seen that the mission was no small matter. Sir, the silver-armored Holy Guard continued, this Qilin beast has an extremely sharp and powerful sensory ability. It will never forget the aura it remembers. I'm guessing that one of the people who went in just now is most likely related to the mission that Lord Song Li carried out last time. Luo Ting could not help but fall into deep thought after listening to the other party's words. He looked at the Qilin beast that was still hovering under the giant golden door, and many complicated emotions surged between his brows. The silver-armored guard continued, Sir, although we don't know what top-secret mission Lord Song Li is carrying out, I'm sure it's something important. If the handsome Qilin beast really remembers that person's aura, we can follow it and find that person. When that time comes, it'll be a great merit. They were discussing in low voices. The teams of the major sects and families in the area below were getting impatient, but even so, no one dared to rashly step forward to disturb them. After some thought, Luo Ting shook his head. Put away your thoughts. Sir. Just do your job well. Since it's a top-secret mission, the higher-ups won't let us get involved. Moreover, this is only your guess. What if you're wrong? I don't need to say anything more. The silver-armored guard's face turned pale. He bowed and said, Sir, I was wrong. I spoke too much. I'll pretend that you didn't say anything. Yes, thank you, sir. Then, the silver-armored guard hurriedly returned to the area where he was earlier. Luo Ting's eyes narrowed. He lifted his head to look at the Qilin beast that had spread its wings and left. In the end, he shook his head. He knew very well that he had to be careful no matter what he did in the Divine Light clan. I'm really curious. Even an expert like Song Li failed to carry out a mission. Phew! Luo Ting let out a sigh of relief and stopped thinking about other things. He looked at the crowd below and said, Next. Buzz. The world spun and space shifted. The group of people from Mount Kunliu felt like they had passed through a long tunnel of time. Endless golden lights flashed around them. This feeling was very similar to when they used the teleportation array. Hua! After an unknown amount of time, a bright golden light flashed in front of everyone. Immediately, their feet touched the ground, and their bodies landed firmly on the ground. What followed was a completely new and refreshing environment. The mountains and rivers in front of them were majestic and lush with vegetation. A natural moat that stretched from east to west appeared in front of them. The cliffs looked like they were cut by a knife, and the waterfalls looked like the Milky Way. The sky was high and the earth was wide. The craggy mountain rocks looked like the work of the gods. At this moment, everyone from Mount Kunliu was at the peak of a towering mountain. They looked down at the mountains and witnessed the auspicious signs of heaven and earth. Is this the ancient desolation heaven realm? Why is it a little different from what I imagined? How is it different? I don't know. I have an indescribable feeling. Hearing the clamor of the disciples behind him, the demon-slaying palace master Wenliang frowned and said, This is only a corner of the ancient desolation heaven realm. There are dangers everywhere. Don't be careless. After being scolded by Wenliang, everyone woke up. Over the past thousands of years, the ancient desolate heaven domain had never been known as a good place. Even though it appeared to be a peaceful and desolate place, there was something strange about the peaceful appearance. The master of the flying immortal palace, Qi Hanyu, revealed a serious expression. She turned around and said, Nangong Hao, Lung Lingyan, Danzhen, Chu Hen. The four of you, go and investigate the surrounding situation. The moment she spoke, Chi Hanyu chose the 4 strongest disciples from Mount Kunliu. One could imagine how serious she was about the ancient desolation heaven realm. Yes, the 4 of them replied in unison. The main thing is to investigate the terrain. Once you discover any danger, retreat immediately. Chi Hanyu added. Disciple understands. Immediately, Nangong Ju and Lung Lingyan left first. The 2 of them headed towards the east and west respectively. Be careful, you two. Hua Shui pouted and reminded them with concern. Don't worry. I'm good at escaping. Shan Jin joked. Chu Hen smiled. He exchanged glances with Mu Feng, Qi Zhang, Haozi and the others and nodded. Following that, his figure moved and he and Dan Zhen each chose a direction and soared into the sky. As for the others, they stayed where they were and waited. This place is really surprisingly quiet. Mu Feng glanced at a broken mountain range as he spoke with a profound tone. I believe that it won't be long before the ancient desolate heaven domain turns into a battlefield. Some people said that the ancient desolation heaven realm was a blessed land created by the ancestors and gifted to the later generations. Some people said that the ancient desolation heaven realm was the remains of a chaotic battle thousands of years ago.